Yeah, we're recording that. So welcome to the October 25th meeting of Bellingham Conservation Commission. Being held both online via Zoom and in the Bellingham Municipal Center on the first floor and road. And we just for the record need to state that Neil Stanley, the vice chair, is not here in person, but is attending via Zoom. So thanks for being here, Neil. That will be very helpful for the very first hearing, which we would like to open with in the continuation of the hearing for notice of intent for 217 Hartford Avenue. I won't read all those old parcel numbers. 700,000 square foot warehouse with BBW bank, land under water impact under the WPA with mitigation of 39,358 square feet. Isolated wetland and vernal pools under the bylaw with mitigation. Applicant Jeff Curley from WS Bellingham Associates and Andrea Knoll is representing with LEC Consultants. And Austin is here at the table, so I assume you'll take the lead as.
Yeah, I look a little different than Andrea.
Yeah.
Way better
Just in case somebody's confused looking, saying, I see Jeff Curley, but I don't. Okay. All right, so I think what we were gonna do was, after several delays, to make sure we had a quorum, to meet the Mullen rule and not have a missing member, which at the applicant's request, we had deferred a couple or postponed a couple meetings. We're now going to pick up with a summary, I believe, by Austin of some of the workshops that have been held jointly with Concom representation via Steve and Hannah, and with the consultants BSC group representative Matt Byrne. And you're going to let us know how those went for both the commission and the public, and then we'll take from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the record, Austin Turner with Bowler. Exactly right. We had a couple of additional workshops with Matt, Steve, and Hannah. And from my vantage point anyway, I think they've gone exactly as we had collectively outlined. I thought they were incredibly productive, very valuable, and it's helping us continue to kind of, I personally think, move things in the right direction. The idea this evening would be for us obviously to recap those discussions, work through some of the things that we had as kind of a design group, if you will, or a collaborative group in those working sessions have come up with in terms of ideas, approach, and direction. And then want to get the commission's consensus, obviously, because we feel personally, and I don't know, Steve, I very much appreciate your feedback here too, feel like we're at a good spot where now it's appropriate for us to go and kind of finish the engineering, if you will. Before we go and embark on that little exercise, want to make sure that what we think is appropriate, the commission shares that opinion, and hopefully leaving here tonight with some of that direction so that we can go and finish the engineering. And then I'd envision that being another workshop with Matt, Steve, and Hannah to make sure that what we said we were going to do is what we did, and then we can kind of formalize all that stuff officially.
Right, and just for the record, to emphasize once again, I know it's been said, but again, I want to make sure it's on record, since it's been a few meetings since we've met about this. The commission had authorized as a trial basis, not having done this before, to my knowledge, and Neil's, who's been on the board even longer than I, a collaborative working workshop with the focus for the representation from our group being commission and our consultant BSC, not to design the system for the applicant, but to hear what they were saying and see if the overall track and arc, without committing to any decisions, was one that would bear fruit for the applicant to continue on or make some sort of redirection to save both the commission time down the road, although that's less of a concern for us, but also the applicant. And so it wasn't we were helping build and design it, it was we were reviewing. And Steve and Hannah nod if that's true and say shake it. No, it's not. We were reviewing what was being presented and worked through at the workshop presented by the applicant. So that's as my understanding was of it, and I think it's as it went, correct?
Very much so. And I would say, just to reinforce that point, both Steve and Hannah, you know, the overarching sentiment that was conveyed, and we share, frankly, was, hey, this is awesome, but we've got to make sure the commission is approving this. So they weren't giving us direction or answers to the test, so to speak. It was keeping us kind of in the bumpers, but always saying, we don't speak for the commission. Let's go and talk to them, but we feel like the direction that we're heading is appropriate. Let's make sure that the people who have official say over that share that view. So with that, what I thought I'd do is I pop my screen up. go through some what we're talking about, and then we can open up some dialogue. You give me share rights by chance?
I can't. Pam, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry, what would you like me to do?
Share rights for Austin.
If we can get the bodies through the door, we have the right.
Okay,
I don't need to move, I'm not gonna ask you.
Double duty.
And, there's a FinCom meeting, I think downstairs, probably, or doubling that up. I know the party secretary, Tina, is joining that meeting, so. Listening to our meeting after.
Okay, all right, here we go. So what you're looking at here for by way of orientation, so this is obviously the entirety of the project. The green areas, or the light green areas on the plan are the wetland mitigation areas that have been the subject of many of our collaborative sessions with Matt and Steve and Hannah. The pink areas on the plan are the buffer zone replication and enhancement areas that we're contemplating. Those are still somewhat of an evolving piece, given that we feel really good about the wetland mitigation, but the buffer zone mitigation is going to kind of round out once we all have reached a consensus on the mitigation. So that's still a bit moving, but we feel good about how it's currently positioned. What I thought I would do is just kind of work from the upper left corner of the screen down to the lower right, just kind of linearly, almost kind of following the paths from the sidewalks that we've done. Yeah, I think, which is pretty consistent with some of the conversations.
If I may ask, I just wanted to confirm, this is the packet that was a response to the last, I think we sent this to you Monday morning.
Yeah.
Hannah, and I believe it,
Yes.
I think we were told it was distributed to you guys. Just want to make
This information was in the.
This sheet is not in there.
This is the key I just created for tonight, but I'll email it to Hannah. too.
Okay.
So, yeah. So with that, I'll start upper right. So this area here, we're kind of referring to mitigations area 1 and 2. And if you remember, there's just the small pocket that's next to the stream crossing that we're improving. And then this area where the cursor is, it's kind of the larger mitigation area that we've been talking about. So this one, what we've done and what you're looking at here, this represents the evolution of this design here. So that's kind of working with Matt, providing us a little bit of feedback on some of the designs that we presented, Steve and Hannah obviously having input too. What we've created here, the green area being the area that's going to be wetland replication. And you know, all that spaghetti looking stuff in the middle is kind of as we're getting into the micro contouring of these spaces. And as you get further to the interior, what you're seeing there are isolated low spots that we're trying to create. So you have some higher spots and some low spots. These being some depressions that are in there that are intended to hold water a bit longer and give some habitat as you progress into the warmer parts of the season. Similarly, we're mirroring that on the left side of it as well. And you know what we've talked about with Matt and the team was this area, if you can see me kind of tracing up and down the middle of the screen, it's a higher spot in that mitigation area. We still expect it to be wet, but it's a little bit higher. And as a way to kind of evenly distribute water and kind of feed this equally, what we're talking about, if you recall, is this area is predominantly fed by some groundwater resource areas that we'll be interacting with to create the spot, but also there'll be a supplement with some of the hydrology we're going to create as part of the stormwater features to mimic some of that existing hydrology. And what we talked about was including like a perforated pipe in here that's basically a level spreader that'll get the water out evenly and kind of slowly so it can meander evenly into the basin as opposed to a pointed channelized flow. Thought that was a nice way of getting the water in there.
So where your cursor hand is, if you went straight back and down,
Yeah,
and you run
right.
into the parking area, is that the dark line above that?
So this is that parking area here.
Okay, so there'd be a single pipe feed to that feeder pipe
Correct,
for
yeah.
the whole parking lot.
Yep, and so this would kind of feed in here, and then we have a manifold, if you will, that would have various points of discharge, so it could evenly spread into those two pockets, and then allow that water to fill up. And then, the benefit of that too, these low spots, as Matt was describing it, in nature, these things are obviously going to fill up from the bottom up, and that would allow us the opportunity to do that with that pipe kind of buried in there. Water would kind of permeate through the soil material that we're going to create, and then come up through some of the wetland material that we're gonna have on the bottom, then it'll fill up like it would in nature, as opposed to top down, it'll come from bottom up. And kind of mimic that experience.
Just a quick question, like, the depressed areas, are any of those where, or maybe you haven't been able to because you have to do different kinds of testing? You're saying most of the site is fed from the ground up right now. Obviously, you don't have the hydraulics coming from parking area, it doesn't exist, but do you have any idea where on that, within the purple, purple pinkish color and the green interior, it's predominantly coming now? Is it in one area that is, okay, most of what's coming from over here already?
Based on some of the explorations we've already done out here, what we're expecting is that the groundwater is flowing kind of from the bottom left of the screen more, and then up to the right corner and down to that wetland system that abuts 495.
When you say groundwater flowing, you mean surface runoff, surface running?
No, the groundwater trends, what we're seeing when we go and find seasonal high groundwater elevation subsurface, the trend line suggests it's going in the kind of that lower left to upper right corner. And
The
so
aquifer, subsoil aquifer is moving in the north, whatever.
towards that feature over there, yeah. Yeah, and that's where some of our excavations are. Well, this will be, we're depressing this a bit further, but some of the deeper excavations are here, so we're expecting to intersect with that groundwater. And which is feeding this area already, and we're expecting to continue to feed this wetland that we're gonna be enhancing.
Would you not think that that would be inhibited by that bermish with the feed pipe in it middle from reaching the far side of that area?
That's a great question. What we've done, it's hard to see in 2 dimensions. It's a berm in the sense of it's higher than the other areas that are further depressed, but it's not a berm in the sense that it's going to be higher than everything else around it.
Right. We would
It's a
have
higher spot and a low
to,
spot.
we would have to fill all the depressed areas to the left side of that before we get up to the point of going over. I assume the depressed areas that are lower than the other areas and within the green. So the 2 depressed areas that are on the left side would fill up gradually from the groundwater aquifer moving in that direction, as well as feeding from the surface runoff from the sorry, parking area. But it's not quite as even if it's mostly coming back. I wouldn't know if it all just welled up from below or pretty evenly. So I'm just trying to get a sense of that. It seems like the left side's going to fill up first, and then eventually, because the berm is high enough to stop it completely, get over to infiltrate. I didn't think it was going to go below the berm, infiltrate through the ground. What, just as a perspective from the,
There's a 2-foot elevation difference between the top of the berm and the bottom of the,
of the lowest area, or just the average area of the overall green?
bottom of the left. The low parts in the left are at 214, the top of the berm is 216. Is that correct, Austin?
Yeah, these are 216, and then we have the lowest spots in here about 214.
So those ones that are in there in the lighter colors now, those are all going away?
The ones
Because
that
you're
are-
going-
Those
yeah,
contours.
Yeah, those contours are going, yeah, we're gonna grade that.
Roughly from the far left of the screen where the green goes off the screen right there, yeah, to the far right side of the pink where it's going off the screen, or the green even there. What is that distance roughly?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know offhand.
It looks big, but it's now looks really small because you just zoomed out.
Yeah, I know.
If it was that size right now, we wouldn't have any problem.
I know, right? It may be, I was gonna say about 200 feet, maybe.
200?
Yeah, maybe
Ballpark,
give or
just looking
take,
at the
yeah.
parking layout.
Yeah.
Just the green?
That's green, yeah.
Tip to tip, I guess, is what.
Yeah,
the
from
chairman
here
was
to here.
asking. Yeah.
Right.
And we have-
Roughly.
And roughly how far below grade, I know it's only 2-foot gentle rise, if that, for that.
232 feet.
I see.
So what we talked about, if you remember, there's kind of that flat spot out there, right? So below that flat area is where we kind of encountered some of that perch soil. Yep. So this was intentionally designed to be approximately 3 to 4 feet below that area. You're gonna see some deeper cuts where some of those boulder piles are. That's kind of superficial. We're just removing the boulders out of there. But generally 3 or 4 feet below that existing flat spot, if you will.
I'm just trying to picture, and maybe it's all been hydrologically figured, but if the, what'd you call the pipe that's got the holes in it?
I called it a manifold.
Manifold, yeah. If the manifold is doing its thing, taking some runoff water, the area is contributing its share, but there's a good heavy rain. And the water is coming out through the pipe and it's not going to flow across the surface because it's not laid on top of this raised area. It's in the soil, you said. How far down below grade is it? Or below?
Yeah, my
Ballpark?
intention, and this is kind of when I say finish up the engineering. this is
Yeah, I understand.
my-
It might be
math,
deep, I just
gotta read that point.
Yeah, my intention is probably it's around 214, maybe it's 213 and a half, just enough to get it just below that upper level of the wetland system that we're creating. just to give it enough burial depth and, but not so it's so deep where it's gonna not allow it to do that.
Well, so it's gonna,
In ground.
so it's gonna be in ground, potentially in the groundwater. And I'm just trying to picture how this manifold's gonna be handling all this water pressure it's got coming from the, I mean, it's gotta be pitched at a fairly decent rate to get a drain off the parking area.
I envision the manifold itself being flat.
Right,
Yeah.
so, no, but the pipes coming down into it from the parking area, I see the contour lines look pretty sharp, enough that they have to follow if you dig it deep enough to get flatter, but. I'm just trying to picture how much flow there can be out of an underground manifold with the desire not to causing erosion or rapid flow of water. And then it successfully reaching to what looks like about 150 feet to the right, let's say if it goes depressed areas way up there. 100 to 150 feet underground, not over the surface, which I can picture a little more readily of a flat area building up and, you know, spreading. Just raising that point, I don't expect a concrete answer now, that's not my intent, but I just want to raise this, you were spending a lot of time on this particular area as it's one of the larger areas. So I'm sure you'll be presenting a plan eventually with that, but that's a question.
I think that's exactly what Austin alluded to earlier, is moving forward with the engineering. If you recall, this was a surface detention basin in the initial submission. We made the trip out here, saw the opportunity for a replication area here, and we've decided to move the stormwater retention detention underneath the parking lot. That's the thing that needs to get designed here next to understand what the flows are coming up from underneath there. And to your point, it's a good question about maybe there's a point halfway across here where we break the berm to allow for more of that left to right transition as we understand the groundwater contours and we understand the flow contributing from the stormwater system as well. It's a really good point. It's like if this is the right spot and we're in the ballpark, and I think that was the conclusion to the Monday evening meeting a week or two ago, then that's the next step for Austin to take, is to begin to put detail to some of those questions.
Thank you. Doctor, what was that area called? I'm gonna make a note for myself for future reference.
The physical.
Yeah.
I think we're calling it replication area 2.
Two. Okay, good. Sorry, please proceed.
Yeah, sure. So I think we've kind of touched on it. This is the one that had a lot of discussion, because there's a couple different factors that are influencing how it's coming together. Before I go on to the other ones, I want to see if there's any other discussion items here, or if we're generally comfortable with what I've talked about thus far.
Could you just summarize, like the pre-treatment that is gonna be happening to this water that will be discharged?
Oh, good question. Yeah, so we'll have a couple of things. So there'll be surface runoff, which is happening today. So that, let's allow that to happen, not coming off the parking lot. The water, which may be coming off paved surface or a parking lot, would be collected in the catch basins with the hoods and the sumps. We'd send it through a mechanical treatment device, which is intended to remove sediment, floatables, other things like that. It would be designed to accommodate the flow rates we're expecting to go through that system, which is a manufacturer to help size that. It would then go into the underground system, which there'll be a series of chambers in there where the runoff is immediately directed to in those chambers. Some of the terms you'll hear is called like an isolator row. That allows for further polishing of the stormwater, and it's wrapped in a permeable fabric or a water permeable fabric. As that water goes into that isolator row, it then bleeds through that water permeable fabric, fills up the rest of that system as the storm may intensify or ebb. And then the water will slowly, in some cases, permeate. Well, we're allowing for some groundwater recharge. And that'll filter through, which we expect to continue to make its natural progression down towards that wetland series A, but also intersect with this wetland resource area. Higher flows, we're going to design an outlet control structure, which will control how much water is getting to this system from that stormwater system and when. And that'll be part of the hydrology we do. But there's multiple levels of treatment upstream before it even is allowed to discharge here.
Answer the question for now. Thanks, Steve.
Austin, just to confirm my understanding, this is almost a construction from scratch that will become a vernal pool, is that correct?
I think we had some, we're incorporating, yeah, so
Where
this
this
will be,
one, there's a lot more going on here than any of the other spots.
I think there's more earthwork involved with this one comparatively speaking to the other ones. What we're doing, we're essentially using those low spots and eliminating those artificial high spots that the boulder piles created. So that creates, some of the earthwork in there, but this one requires probably most manipulation of all the ones we're talking about.
Can you elaborate on the mechanics of the build, or would that be?
No, I mean, generally speaking, what we're gonna do is we're gonna Get in there, the first thing I'd imagine we do is remove those boulder piles, get those out so we can bring it back to kind of a level condition, if you will. Excavate down carefully to the desired elevation.
Capturing the materials you take.
Correct. So there is going to be some of that restrictive layer that we found, those compact silts, that tilly material that we encountered. We're going to take that out, stockpile it. Then use that to create, I'm going to call it the basin, for lack of a better descriptor, but the basin that's going to form this wetland system. And then we will bring in material that is similar in nature, provided we actually need additional material to form the remainder of that basin. And then as we build up to our desired elevations, we're going to bring in that organic material, that wetland material. Andrea's team will have oversight over that. I'd imagine that the commission's independent consultants will have oversight over that. But then that organic material goes on top of that restrictive layer to create kind of the wetland system, and that'll be used to shape the basin. That's an oversimplified version of it, but that's generally
I
how.
just wanted the commission to hear the raw mechanics, and to give you a sense of what's coming out. The elevations in the existing run from a high of 228 at one point to a low of 217. When it's finished, both sides will be at 214 with the center strip at 216. Is that accurate?
So even though this is, we're calling it a wetland, but it's receiving stormwater runoff, how is it not classified as a infiltration or a stormwater retention?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. That's a great question. So we're intending to have our stormwater management system. We have performance expectations we have to meet for the project. Obviously, there's the town stormwater requirements as well as state. That system and what comes out of that system will meet those standards independent of what's happening here. What we're using the runoff from that system is to mimic the existing hydrology and then provide supplemental feed, if you will, to this wetland system, but we're not counting on this to serve in a stormwater management capacity. That's where we're making this distinction. We're really providing hydrology, but not using the stormwater device.
However, in fact, if that you didn't treat it as a stormwater system and therefore cut off the pipe coming from the parking lot, you'd have nowhere for that water from the parking lot to go. So it has to act as a stormwater treatment system.
Well, I would direct it elsewhere. I have other ways of getting it. Ultimately, the point at which it's ultimately going is the wetland system on the back up against 495.
Sort of piping it all the way across. I don't know, but
I could mechanically make it go there if I had to. I think it makes a lot of sense just logically to use that stormwater system after all the treatment to supplement the existing hydrology with that controlled discharge.
Okay, before they move on, I just want to make sure we cut that in. So two other things. One is you said all that treatment, and I will bring up what I brought up before, which is my concern, not just the oils and sediment, but salts, particularly in a large parking area. I don't know of any system that successfully treats salts, and you're going to be putting this into a not detention basin, but a wetlands replication area. So I'd like to see how that's going to be addressed down the road. And the second was, I don't know the square footage of when Steve was describing the amounts of material being moved, but when you have saved, I'm going to call it the perched material, but the silty material, so but then you're recoding this bottoms of the lower areas, I assume the 5 depressed areas especially, because you want the water to hold there the longest.
Probably the entirety of the green area is going to be what I refer to as kind of a basin.
All right, so if you're coating that whole basin with impervious material, and then you've got a pipe underground that's feeding and trying to percolate water up and into it. If it's impervious, how's the water going to come up from below?
So what you do is, good question. So what you do is you make, when you're creating the basin, if you will, that kind of bottom layer, you make sure that it exists below the invert of that pipe so that the pipe isn't pushing stuff through the impermeable layer. It's anything like when we do a stormwater basin and there's an outlet to it, you make sure that the core of that basin, which is an impermeable liner, it's either clay or it's a manufactured liner, you wrap it around the pipe so that it's not preventing anything from getting through, but it's also maintaining the integrity of the system that it's serving. So it's fairly common in construction. It requires,
Yeah, off the top of my head, and a lot of numbers are down to 217, 213, 214. It sounds like it's going to be a fairly tight, but it's an engineering problem, not mine per se. I just going to be interested to see how that plays itself out, because I'd hate to design.
What's the parking lot grade, Austin? Just
parking lot grade.
still sitting 10 feet, 12 feet above.
Yeah, the parking lot's anywhere between 232 and 227.
So that's 15, 16 feet above, and then immediately below that, you'll have the collection system and the treatment system that Austin's referring to. So you'll still have some hydraulic drop.
Right, no, it's, once it's out in that pipe, it's going across the site and it's at 2 feet below grade or whatever it is, so that he's trying to get it just below the overall depth of the, the top edge of the basin, I guess. That, where that impervious layer hits is gonna be critical, because if it happens to hit just above it or at it, it's gonna be stopping the water from wanting to go what you guys are designing to do.
It
Or
has to
like
sit
bottom
above
it. It'll either, so if it sits above it, it's gonna be coming through the organic material that you hope to have a thick enough layer to allow that to happen on top of the impervious. Okay. Just trying to picture it.
That's what I was referring to, and I oversimplified it, but when I was trying to finish the engineering. I know what I want to do, and I have the math starting to be sketched out. Andrea and I have to work through those specifics, so on the plans that the construction level plans for this have that level of detailing established, and I know what it wants to be. I've started drawing it out already. I just gotta make sure it's fine. Before I pin it all the way down, I want to make sure there's consensus there.
Mike,
I have a question.
I'm sorry.
So have you looked at the site with respect to NIPD's? And if you have a tenant who will be one of those users who has a higher pollution load and has certain restrictions on what they can discharge?
So you say that you're referring to the stormwater pollution prevention plan or the MS4
NIPD's,
During construction phase or as a
post-use.
post-use. So an end user that fits into a particular category, there would have to be a zoning compliant user here that would need to meet both the wellhead protection district here as well. So we don't anticipate we wind up with somebody here that would require an elevated level of beyond what Austin's designing for Metro, following the question exactly, but.
I mean, that kind of answered a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, if they have, like, let's say you have a chemical storage company who wants to move in,
Right.
they wouldn't be able to store their chemicals in certain areas. If they did, they would be able to discharge stormwater in those areas.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Steve,
you asked the size, the green area alone is measuring just shy of 20,000 feet.
Yeah, actually, now.
the size of layer. From a lot of things. Okay, I want to be sensitive to the time because I've been warned about this before. And,
All right, I'll do
this has been very helpful for us, I think, on the commission, because this is one of the number one areas. Let me ask the administrator a question. Did you get an answer from Mr. DeSimone about the third item, second or third item?
I have not heard from him.
Okay. Can I ask what you're here for tonight? Welcome, by the way. Okay, thank you. That's coming up next. I just want to be sure. So if you want to hang, and I would ask the commission if they want to do this, give you a few more minutes to summarize after we open the hearing for North Street, because that is, we do have a butters here for that. If it looks like the other two things on our agenda may be very light, I mean, two things hearing wise. I would ask the commission if they want to entertain the idea of having a brief continuation after those, if the applicant wants to hang out a bit. What is the commission's wish first? That sound amenable? We can set a set period of time, 15 minutes, or something to give them a bit more time, since we got stuck on that one item, but important. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we can just continue it until.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to continue the hearing for 217, assuming the applicant is willing to hang out. Sure. Okay, thanks. Entertain a motion to continue the hearing for 217 Hartford Avenue to a time later in this meeting to be determined at that time. No, that these other two are things there. Well, let's say within the next. In the next 45 minutes, probably, maybe much in that, but we'll see. I don't think we need to set pick and set up. We've done this before. We just said so later in the meeting. But I'll accept motion. Second, Steve, thank you. But any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Neil. Okay, thank you.
Good God.
Let's move on, Neil. All right, so we will continue on. We are going to hope that Ryan Rossen or John Bashir, maybe I've heard from them.
Ryan, I can afford that to you.
Yeah, you
Oh,
can-
I do have a formal email
Okay, so. This may be even briefer than I thought, but go ahead and sit back down.
We'll
there.
yield the table.
So, you're a butters on Blackstone Street, yes?
Yes.
Okay, hi. I live not too far away myself, so you look a little familiar, I might have seen you in passing. We want to let you know that we received notice just recently, like,
I think Friday morning.
I think
they
Friday,
told me.
recently that the applicant, Don Mushian, Cheyenne, whatever, and Ryan Rosine, his representative, had asked to continue. So we are going to try to schedule that for another time, if you want to hang out and hear what that is. So we're not going to take any action on it. We're not going to discuss it because there's nothing tonight except hearing when the next time will be. So if you want to hang out for just a minute, we'll try to set that for you, at least the date, okay? And then if you check the agenda on Monday morning of the hearing week, you'll see the time approximately that it will be held. Okay?
He requested November 8th, which is our next meeting.
Okay. Do we have anything else? Do you know?
Nothing at the moment.
Okay, so I believe, just because I was listening in on the planning board meeting for this, and I think Steve, you were there, weren't you? Last planning board meeting for Blackstone Street, yeah. That part of the desire to continue is because they're continuing to modify the plans. Big pardon? I'm just letting you know why I think it's been rescheduled. I'm not going into discussion about it. So, and also for the butters. So I think it's been continued because of the planning board continuation. So we will accept a motion to continue this hearing for Blackstone North Street's 12 3-unit townhouse buildings with a stormwater management system, which is the original design that we had received, to the evening of November 8th at a time to be set the week before, the tentatively 7 o'clock. So we'll be putting that early on the agenda. So if you come right around 7 on November 8th, if the commission accepts that, then we will. Yeah, good.
Do we want to reserve 7 for 217?
By like rules, we have to say tentatively 7 o'clock. I can change it and put estimated times, which is what we have here. And what we follow, but we do have to say a time at the meeting, so we can say 7 o'clock for each one.
Yeah.
And I can edit.
Yeah, but we'll try to remember to say, I think that for now, this works good for Hannah for scheduling, and I think it's
Yeah.
fine with us on the commission, although we can discuss it more down the road. To have. What firm time? You think you do? No, well, no, well, we can discuss that too. So, we are looking for motion to move. Thank you, Steve. Second? No, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Neil, Neil Stevens says aye for the record.
Just keep cracking you up, huh?
Neil, you're always cracking me up, man. If I was sitting next to you, I'd be coughing in your ear. We will, that is a unanimous vote, that we will have this hearing again on November 8th. The time, again, check the agenda on, the town website, just check the agenda to see a better, the final version of the time, but could probably be early on, maybe 7, maybe shortly after, depends what else comes up. But we thank you for your attendance today. You don't have to hang out if you don't want to anymore. Thank you for coming, being interested.
Thank you.
I don't know what to do with myself, get 10 extra minutes. Thanks, hearing. Although I see the applicant's representative is in the room, so if you want to do a couple of agenda items, let's do a few administrative items, shall we? Okay, I'll let Hannah take the lead on a couple of these things.
Well, actually, would you want to summarize your meeting for Wagner Farm, because you're the last one that hit
Sure.
that?
In the packet that Hannah included on the website, there was I'll just hold it up for you. Verification, a site sketch that was done by the town, I think, right?
Yeah.
DPW got it. Which showed the pond, triangulated pond, Wagner Pond, I don't know if you guys, or Red Lake Pond. I've seen that, yeah, that one, kind of good. You know, flash that to everybody. Alright, so it looked like this. Oh, I know, that's a different one. Take it back. That one was a little more refined. This was
That looks like part of it.
yeah,
Well, that's what I created.
yeah, okay, so Hannah created one, she sent from a,
Like, that's what it said.
excuse me, what's about for sketch group? But I don't know when we got this.
I think it was just me and you.
Basically, we discussed at the last meeting, I believe, that there was some concern from some of the residents in the area that do you think that Natty is coming today?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, okay, so.
no. That's
We-
fine.
maybe we should jump over this because we anticipate one of the residents who's very interested in the affects her greatly. Is gonna want to hear what we've said. She kind of has heard some of the stuff and BBW's been in touch with her, so I'll put off Wagner on until a little bit later.
Okay.
Jumping through the minute, not minutes, the calendar.
Oh,
You've made the
yes.
tweaks, yes?
I made the tweaks and reposted it, so what you're looking at is the edited version.
Two. So the meetings, the months that we have. The annual meetings, the town meetings rather. We still have 2 meetings per month, so we've avoided the town meetings, which were one of the points of contention with one of these months, correct?
Yeah, in May. We just pushed it back, so May, I think it has like the first week in the week after Memorial Day. I'm pulling it up right now.
One of the other thing was just making sure we avoided like just before Thanksgiving or Christmas, which we would have done successfully. Actually, I take back, looks like we only have 1 meeting scheduled in November and December. I was looking at the submission by dates, not the actual meeting dates.
There is a potential due to in December, and not in November, but I mimicked
Okay.
what we're doing this year.
Yeah, I don't think we need to drastically change. Usually that works out pretty well. Gives the commission a little relief around the holidays, which is nice. Okay. So does anybody else have any other questions about the revised? Okay, so we've avoided the conflict potentially. Thank you, Hannah, for doing that. And posting it. We don't really need to vote on it. I don't think it's just a matter of record.
If everyone's good with it, I'll post it eventually on the
Yeah.
website, so.
Okay, so if no one has any objection, I'll just let it post. I don't think we again need to vote on the calendar per se. If it turns out we do, we can do that at a later date, but I don't believe we do. I don't remember ever voting on a calendar. All right, what do you want to back the next day? I know we have a couple more minutes.
You want me to do 400 Carolines?
Yeah.
Okay, both Mike and I have been out there. I went out there with Michael Berg, who is the town arborist, after Mike did. And the trees that they want to cut down are inside an easement area. So it's more like a recommendation at that point. But they still wanted to do like what we were wanting to do. The arborist basically said it appears to be a very large, healthy spruce, but if you really look at it and no tree knowledge, it's on its way to dying. So he suggested, even though it looks good right now, it's better to cut it and let the big oak tree behind it spread his wings. So that's what I wrote in the emergency certification. If you looked at the little like special order of conditions I wrote at the very bottom of it. I think everyone except you have signed it, and I'm not sure if you just don't want to sign it or if you have questions.
I just see my time.
Okay,
So
Okay.
it's right, the fruit trees are within probably 6 feet of the house. They're on the edge of a bank that runs down through of a creek that runs down as a drainage source down through the whole development. The trees are literally on the side of the bank. The bank is very steep on both sides. It's got some erosion issues, which I think the property owner there is concerned about because there's a little sidewalk around the side of their house, which is right next to these trees. You can stay on the sidewalk and touch the trees without reaching far. Is starting to be on the edge of the bank and moments of erosion, whatever, but that's something for a different time to deal with. And I insisted that we have as a condition, they stump the trees, do not remove the stumps. All 3, there's a little ash of some sort that's very sickly and a pine and a very thin maple. And there's another healthy maple, I think, behind there that the arborist felt would grow and flourish because of the spruce being out of the way, which is being choked by a big vine too. And so if they leave them stumped a couple feet up, that will help retain the soil in the bank, which will be good for both property owner and the town. As that looks like an important drainage culvert that flows down into this creek down this eventually feeds everything to Charles, but attributed to Charles. But anyway, yeah, Beaverbrook. And I also insisted that they do all the work from the driveway next to the house there. They don't need to go down into the bank at all to do this if they do it properly.
Yeah, so in the special conditions, I wrote that, the trees must be cut by using a crane from the roadside, which Mike Berg did say is possible based on his experience, so.
And remove anything from that falls down into the creek that needs to be kept unobstructed. So, anything else for questions for commission members?
A comment on the calendar. Well, sorry.
Okay, well, let's just finish this one for you. So if there's no other concerns, then if you go ahead and sign that emergency order, we don't need to vote on it because it was emergency order request. I don't think we need to vote on it. So we're good with that. Otherwise, Darryl, you're up to speed on that, and that's take care of the property owner. I'm sure will be grateful.
I'll sign it today.
Okay, thank you. You know, good. Calendar question?
It looks like a couple weeks are getting moved to like the first and third, Wednesday, is that helpful?
Because I had to move a week behind in May. Is that a rule that we follow? First and Thursdays?
That's a good question. I didn't catch that. The timing is it just the month of May?
So the,
May
I
8th
think
and
we had
May
to move
29th.
in May, but then, it looks like August, September, and October. October has 3, sorry.
Yeah, it does.
True,
If there's
I don't
like-
say traditionally, I'm not sure if it's a bylaw. Neil, do you know? The second and fourth Wednesdays, is that something that's, other than the website saying that that's when we're meeting, is that a requirement, do you know?
Or like, is there a conflict on that other Wednesday?
I don't know if it's a bylaw. It's been, with rare exception, it's how we've done it for the past 22 years. Not that that's a reason, but
Right.
you know,
And not that, even if we decide to do that for this calendar, we couldn't change it to something else down the road. I mean, we're posting the dates, so people go by the dates. If they're right and we have meetings on those dates, that's the most important thing, I think, but.
Don't know if like,
yeah, we've always done second and fourth. I think we moved one once or twice during a summer because of vacations or something, but it's been rare.
Okay.
The only thing is,
Let's see.
zoning is always the first of the month, so that's a good point. I can double check it.
All right, then, having had that point out by Aaron, thank you. What we'll do is we'll ask Hannah to double check the calendar for the room, this room that we're in, make sure it's not a conflict with another commission or group for the town. And then secondarily, just identify which are not the second and fourth. So if it's just a couple of them during the course of the year, then maybe we just alter the website so it doesn't say second and fourth. It just says
It's
twice.
shifted the whole lot.
Huh?
Pardon?
It's shifted the whole lot.
Yeah, okay.
The
So.
second half, yeah.
All right, so there's not a huge major urgency. We still have 2 months left in 2023.
Yeah.
We'll tweak this a bit more and then come back to it. Again, didn't require a vote, but it's good that we're catching this. Thank you for putting that on. All right, it is close enough to start the continued hearing for.
I have 3 minutes.
Oh, okay, well, 3 minutes.
I have 3
Um,
minutes.
I can ask this question, and if it's a yes, then we're good to go with that, and that is the minutes for the 3 meetings that have been under review and scrutiny and commenting and so forth by commission members for some time, and Tina would love to get them posted as we can, I'm sure, and they are the dates, Hannah, you can do them?
Mhm.
August 9th and 23rd, I believe, and September 13th, I want to say, if I can just find my minutes.
I think that's right.
I think that's right. So everybody has had a chance to, for those 3 meetings minutes, review them, make any comments, pass them back to Hannah and or Tina, and I don't know what they've gotten, but if there's nothing else tonight, then I would like to approve minutes as amended by the commission members without trying to dig up what all those changes were. I don't think there were many, and I don't think they're substantial. And then they can be posted online. So we're out of the month of July, and now it looks like we're getting caught up. We will still have September's, which the 27th, which was just sent out to people this week. So you want to take a look at that if you would, please. And
Should we wait until the minute?
no, Tina said she's amended everything in the email today, or Monday. She sent out, when she was urging people to sign it. She said she's taken all 3 sets of minutes for those months or dates and made any changes that have been given to her. She didn't repost them, I don't think. She's waiting to get it. We're ready to post them, but she has taken any comments that you or anybody else has sent to her, and she says she incorporated them. I trust that she's done that. She's been doing this enough years on. Okay, so anybody else have any other concerns with just bringing them as a group? Okay, so let's accept the motion to accept the minutes as amended for sure I get these dates from somebody before I read them off wrong.
8/9.
August 9th, August 23rd, and September 13th. As amended by commission members and forwarded to Tina and Hannah.
So
Thank you. Ariane,
Second.
second Noel, thank you. Any other discussion? No? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Neil, thank you. Okay, we're good for that. Thank you very
You,
much.
you don't have to keep thanking me separately, Mike.
No, I actually, I think I do, Neil, because I remember reading for the open meeting law. One of the quirks, in addition to announcing at the beginning of the meeting, any commission member that's not present live but is online, that I have to announce any vote when there's commission members not present in the room.
Ah, okay.
So I'm just trying to cover it.
Yep, no.
So, and you're piping in right up nice and loud. So when Tina's playing it back, if there's any question, I'm sure she'll hear your voice. Okay, moving back, excuse me, on with the continuation. Fall. 7:45, actually on time. Oh my gosh, I can't. Wow, that's not next night. So,
30 to 21 Boston.
start of the second quarter. Well, that's, I don't get too excited.
30 Farm Street base and call.
Okay.
80 Elbow Street, you still would do the checks.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
If she lets me know, I'll let you know.
Because I'm concerned one of yours might be paid twice, but I want to make sure everyone's trying to see. I'm wondering if Chase Street was paid
Which one?
Chase. Then based on my
No,
record,
you mean, Farm Street, it's 35, 80 Elbow and 236.
right, because I didn't tell you this, but I have two. From Chase, and I want to make sure there isn't a
I know
double
this
pay
now.
and just a double copy.
Well, him, he's gonna.
Paul.
Oh, okay, well, I still want to be fair. If it's his, I want to give it back to him.
So as soon as I turn Elbow, I'll let you know. but,
Okay.
35, you paid the call.
I
She
appreciate it.
thinks so too, but she's still checking.
Okay,
Okay, guys,
Okay, Paul, you wanna?
15 Chase.
Yeah, I'm
you can
gonna
do either.
let's do the first one.
Okay.
So I'm gonna open the hearing for, continue hearing for notice of intent for 10 Cutler
Oh,
Street
thank God. I thought we were extended till Christmas on that.
We can.
of 2026 or what?
I don't remember.
haven't heard an
Yeah,
extension
you know,
on that.
I think we joked a while, but we
Oh,
didn't
okay.
say an actual date.
No, I don't recall, does anybody here recall?
Well, give me a month.
Or even a month extension?
Yeah, I can't get a hold of the owner, so I have no idea. Under contract, I can get a hold of him. And I know they haven't gone to zoning, so
Yeah, well, we can continue it on.
I'm hoping they just, they forget it.
In September, my notes say continue to 10/25 on the.
Oh,
Okay,
we
good
said
thing.
a month
Look
ago.
at that. Okay.
Oh, maybe, yeah. that could be.
December 13th is the December meeting. Is that good?
Yeah, no, the 25th. Nobody wants to do the 25th.
I also wrote,
Did you write question mark after you put that? in the note?
I wrote Paul showed up 12 minutes late.
Oh, wow, are you like a principal?
But he did show up. That. I get like 2 points credit for that there. Okay. All right. The second, so we already have continued it to the 25th, but if that is actual day, we need to correct that. Because we aren't gonna meet then, for sure. So if we have that.
No, it's the 13th.
We have the 13th. Okay, so maybe Steve was saying 25th.
it was.
No, today's the 25th.
Oh, I thought he said 12/25.
No.
I sworn he said 12/25. Okay, maybe I was right. Okay.
That's what I thought it was supposed to be.
That's what he said Christmas. I was like, okay, and then Steve was confirming it. Okay, so we're good until until December 13th. If we want to continue until then, does the commission care to do so, having heard that the applicant is not ready to proceed with this? Okay, anybody want to make a motion to do so? That motion to move the hearing for 10 Cutler Street to December 13th at a time to be confirmed, but approximately 7 p.m.
Steve moved it.
Steve moved it and Ariana is seconding it. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Neil's aye. Thank you very much. All opposed and a unanimous vote. Thank you.
And what's the date?
I don't know, I can't write it down and talk at the same time. Okay, we'll move on to, excuse me, the last item, which is the continued notice, intent, continued hearing for a notice of intent for 12 and 15 Chase Street and Hartford Avenue. Construction of a two-family home, Tom Steve's applicant, representatives Paul DeSimone, Colonial Engineering. It's been continued for a while. What's the latest?
So here's the bad news. He's definitely not gonna pay the fees.
It's bad news for him more than us, but I understand the news that you're relaying to us. Okay.
I mean, I've never had to do that before, but that's,
I'm not prepared to make any motions at this point in time in particular direction. I'm open to suggestions from the commission members, what your thoughts are on this. I don't know.
Is the applicant withdrawing?
no.
Right, well, I believe, Neil, correct me if I'm wrong, if an applicant does not want to pay the fees, other than the current one we're litigating with, for peer review, for whatever reason, in this case, doesn't want to pay the cost that's been quoted, he has received a quote, correct?
Yes.
Well, okay, for the scope of work, and the scope of work seems to be an accurate scope of work as best we can determine from talking to Matt and his review of the project information that he received. You recall anything, other than we would, as the commission, if he does not want to withdraw, if the applicant does not want to withdraw, that we would then deny?
Yes. We would deny.
Without or with prejudice? I don't know the difference for this particular situation.
You do a,
Well,
you do a negative, no, order of conditions.
yeah, I
You
can,
do
a denial.
a denial order of condition. You do an order of conditions and it's a denial.
Yeah, I just don't recall it seamless.
Yeah, it's a denial due to lack of providing information requested.
Right, which would be the peer review / funding.
Correct.
That is basically what we're dealing with that other applicant, okay,
Correct. They're basically refusing to provide us the information we need.
right. And as one of our commission members just mentioned, we should make sure we say why we're doing it, which is because lack of information is not available due to the refusal of the applicant to fund the peer review, which is a responsibility of the applicant. Period. Okay, I'll accept a motion for that.
So moved.
Move to deny. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Noel. Oh, may I have a discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, Neil, and everyone. Opposed? Unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Paul, one question for you. I'm gonna get the number wrong because I wrote it in my notes, but I can't find it right here at the moment. Blackstone Street, the septic review, 236 Blackstone Street. What's the story with that? This
That's
project?
almost done, actually.
Yeah, so my question is this, when I went to look at the site, which is around the corner from me, I saw the field, septic field had been opened up. Pipes are laid, gravel's laid, large amount of soil for retaining, erosion control, silt, sock, which was partially overrun slightly in one spot with some sediment that got into a little too close, not a huge deal, given how thick the grass was, but when I checked with Hannah, the order of conditions have not yet been picked up.
Oh.
Which is- So my question is this,
Did you just, you know,
It was last week, but
Oh.
I can, I mean.
do
if
you have them in your office?
Yeah, I can.
I'll
bring
come
it.
pick them up tomorrow.
no, Paul, my question is this, how does the project start without you having filed on record, as you know, because you've done this with our commission many times? You have to not just get the order, because you have to file them.
No, I know, record them at the registry.
Yeah, so
usually we
how
send-
can a contractor start being almost done now the project and you not having gotten the order of conditions filed?
How it used to work was Ann would send me the order of conditions, and I would either record it or give it to the owner to record.
But until
I
that
didn't
time,
know it
don't you
was-
tell until you've done that, because the owner doesn't know what the story is until you tell them, wouldn't the owner and their contractor not do the work?
Well, the contractor, the owner lives in New Jersey. first of
Somebody
all,
gave the
so I don't know
contractor the
who-
go, right?
Well, we staked it out for you guys,
Yeah,
and he must have saw, because he called me yesterday and says, oh, the system's in. I said, oh, okay, when did you do that? He said, last week. He was working on it last week. So I got my guys going there tomorrow to locate it, but yeah, I had no idea. I usually get the order condition,
man, you have your guys going over to locate the septic,
do the as-built, yeah.
oh, the as-built.
It's in.
Yeah, I would know, I
They-
just locate, sorry. All right, well, I don't know that this has happened before, Neil, you know more history than I, but this kind of thing happen much, to your knowledge?
No, I,
No, we usually get the order.
Right, and my concern is who's controlling the contractor? If it's not you and the owners in New Jersey, then who is?
yeah, if the contractor hasn't seen the order, he has no idea what he's doing. And work should stop immediately.
Well, he's all done. He's all done.
Oh,
What
I
we
mean, the
can,
erosion control was put in. I told him to,
did the help.
I guess it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, huh?
I told him to put the erosion control in and call Hannah. Did he do that? Okay, I told him to do that.
Okay, two things
Before he
then.
started.
I would like to know if the Board of Health has signed off on the complete, don't they have to do inspection partway along?
Yeah, they do their inspections, the bottom.
Okay, so we need to verify, I'm gonna ask you to work with Hannah to see if that's happened, since this is.
I'm sure it's happened.
Well, no, I'm not assuming anything, Paul, right now. I'm
Well,
a little-
we can't,
I'm a little ticked off. excuse my
we
French.
can't,
It's the owner who.
no.
ultimately
I-
responsible.
But he's here representing the owner, so we can't speak to the owner because the owner's not here.
We're responsible for the as-built. And if the bottom wasn't inspected, we make them rip it out. That's what we
Right,
do.
well, I wanna make
We
sure,
have- and
I don't want
that's-
them to do that if they don't need to, but if they haven't. No,
No, I-
if they're not doing it the proper procedures with us, I don't know what else didn't get done right. I just wanted to have that verified, the health department.
No problem.
That's in there. Okay, the second thing is I'd like to know the name of the contractor for future reference.
That's Dave Brown.
I don't know Dave
Oh,
personally.
okay. Yeah.
I've still saw the truck in the driveway, so I saw Brown on the side of it, but I kind of want to do a little research and just find out what's going on with that.
The last conversation I had with him was after we had that meeting. I said, go put the siltation control, the erosion control in and call Hannah. That was the last. Until he called me yesterday and say his system was in. Because we had staked out for you guys, so.
All right, I made the point I wanted to make, which is that's not acceptable and we need to make sure. this-
Morning, we fixed it.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
have a question for my education. Who is in control of the project? If Paul Desimone is here representing, and he's the one that receives the order of conditions from us.
To file with the registry of deeds, which is his responsibility. It has been done in the past. You've done.
All
His
the time.
responsibility because the owner gives him that responsibility. Ultimately, the owner of the property is the one. who
In
is
the absence of the
responsible.
owner.
That's who he would issue any.
Right,
correspondence,
if
violations.
we were gonna do that, but I wanted to get the information from the person we've been dealing with about this, their representative. It's not like we went to the contractor because I don't know what their situation was, but. It's, I don't wanna say unprecedented, because I don't know all the situations happen in town, but it's in 15 so years I've dealt with, one of the first times I've ever seen this kind of thing happen. It's not just because Hannah's new, it sounds like the information was not properly conveyed by the contractor as far as you understand it, and. Work should have been properly filed with.
Yeah, I
As it's
agree.
supposed to be,
I
and
totally agree.
so a contractor of some repute would know that in town if they were doing this on a regular basis, which I think I've heard the name.
Dave been doing it a long time.
Yeah, maybe we'll discuss this amongst ourselves. I think that down the road maybe communicate some more information, but. As their owners, the only person we can see and talk to, and having dealt with you many times here, I kind of hope that you would have been the one. At least giving the go ahead, it's filed, go ahead, start your work. And made sure the contractor knew that. I kind of thought that conversation was the minimum, so.
Well,
And I think, Mike, I think more important, I think more timely in that in addition to not is that they were doing the work without never having seen the order.
Right,
yeah.
They had no idea what they were doing and they started doing it anyway.
Well, it would seem as if the work was done by gut instinct rather than,
Well, they were following the plan. Well, I'll know tomorrow when my guys go out and locate, see if they were following the plan.
is it important to issue a stop work order? I mean, Paul thinks they're finished. On the remote chances still work.
when you go
Well,
out to
they-
locate, have they covered over everything?
After I give them the go-ahead to cover it.
So it's not covered yet,
No,
so it's not complete,
I mean, the system's in the ground,
but he's not getting paid until it's covered.
correct?
Okay.
I
That
can't
answer your
answer
question?
that, I really.
Well, if it wasn't inspected, then he has to expose it, correct?
If the bottom, we've had this happen before in other towns where the contractors jumped the gun and didn't get a bottom inspection by the town inspector. Who was Donatelli. We make them rip it out, put it back in,
Well,
because
it
we need to know that the bottom has been looked at.
would be my suggestion, if it's not finished, covered, that all work stops until we confirm that the bottom was in fact inspected on the remote chance it needs to be.
Well, I'll find that out
Needs to be
tomorrow.
redone.
I'll find that out tomorrow.
Well, I think, I don't know if that's really in our court, but I think we could, you know, go out and inspect and make sure, like, do like a more thorough inspection and we'll pass through.
I walked around the site, took plenty of pictures when I was there, but the work was, I mean, it was wide open. I'm not a septic engineer. I don't know if it was done to the right depth and stuff, but I was looking for the siltation protection, saw that it had been overrun in a small area, not a big deal. Mentioned that to Hannah in passing, and that's when she informed me that the order of conditions had not only not been picked up, but probably therefore, absolutely therefore not filed and reported as it should have been. And so, having seen the work that far along, you know, something is not right. I will follow the lead of the commission if they want to issue a stop order until we can verify that I don't say illegally, but an improperly, at the very least, proceeded project has been, to this point at least, done properly from the health department's point of view, because they're the ones that oversee the septic.
Well, we have our own point of view, so we should focus on that, like, did they install their erosion controls? Did they fill in any wetlands while they were out there doing that? If no, then I don't really think we can
But-
do anything.
Well, we can't do that without stopping the work. I don't think we say, okay, we'll get to it in a couple of days, because they're almost to completion point. I think if you want to investigate the erosion control and other things that's jurisdictional, strictly jurisdictional, we put a stop order on it based on that basis. We go see it, inform Hannah, can inform the health department that, and Paul's gonna be checking anyway, that there are some things that should be checked out. This project is not.
That's fine, that's what I'm saying, we should do if we want to go that way. We can't stop work for a septic system, we don't inspect those.
Well, if a order of conditions that we issued was not properly filed, I think that's the basis. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know that.
You're correct.
So they didn't do that, so we could stop it based on that too, but
No, only that,
You what?
only stop it for that. We can't say, oh, the health inspector didn't inspect this.
no, that can happen incidentally. I'm mentioning that because Paul brought it up, that that's when things are gonna go out and check, and that they've had bottom problems.
If the filing
Was not done.
wasn't done, then you cannot even start. That
Since
would
it has
have-
started, it has to stop.
Correct.
Okay, that's the opinion of the commission. We can base the stop order on that. I'd have to find out exactly, since I've never done a stop order. And if it's been done, it's been done rarely in town and probably administratively by Ann. We can check into it tomorrow morning and find out how that's done. If you'd inform the contractor, I have no way of reaching Mr. Brown, that since you were going to go out
Well,
to
he
site.
can't, yeah, right now, he can't do anything
Okay,
until we say yes.
well, as far
So
as.
it's not gonna be, you know, first thing I do is call Steve in the morning, make sure he did the bottom. Then I'll send my guys out to locate it and shoot the elevation to make sure it's in the right place and at the proper elevation.
Okay.
I'll take Steve's word that he looked at the bottom because that's his job.
Steve of the health department,
Steve, yeah, Donatello.
just the record number. All right,
And in the meantime, I'll come see you tomorrow morning and record the order.
Could we do afternoon?
yeah, she has an important sidewalk.
I have an important sidewalk tomorrow morning,
What
but
time,
afternoon.
what time do you think you'll be good?
I hope I knew.
Yeah, well, I think for one,
Okay,
so I can eat.
all right, no problem. Okay.
Gotta schedule.
So if we're gonna issue a stop order until this can be resolved, it could be a very brief stop order. I think I would just make have somebody make a motion to do so I can vote on it, and then we'd find out the actual logistics tomorrow with town assistance with town administrator.
If necessary, given the fact that also that you would come down tomorrow. We'll hear from Hannah on whether or not he's actually come down to record the.
Well, when I come down to
It's
get,
not just, it's
when I
not
come
just,
down to get pick up the order at 1, I'll tell her if the system is okay, and then you guys can go. from
that
there.
part of it, you can, again, the septic. As Hannah's, Ariana's correct, we don't rule on septic, so you can tell the Board of Health it's okay and so forth. If you want to inform Hannah, that's fine, but that's not our jurisdiction. If we're denying this because the order of conditions was not filed, as it should have been, I think we need to follow up with your point, which is make sure all the environmental controls were put in place. I did witness and I took a picture of at least one area of the silt fence that was slightly breached by some sediment. It wasn't a huge deal at that time, but that was before rain. I'd gone away for weeks, so I don't know what happened in that time. And we can verify that that's okay, even just for the sidewalk.
Right, and didn't the order include, inspection of the erosion control before construction started.
Yes.
So that wasn't done.
Right, the contractor appears, Neil, that the contractor did not, as Paul thought he would, or told him to, reach out to Hannah and tell her that the erosion control is in place, so. They jumped the gun for sure. So,
Well, that's because they didn't get the order and they didn't know they were supposed to do it.
I guess,
Who is responsible for delivering the order to the contracting team?
Well, I usually, when I get it from, Ann used to send it to me in the mail, and I get it, I record it. I make a copy for us, I make a copy of whatever contractor was gonna put in whatever, I'd give them a copy. But basically, they would just more or less go by the plan itself.
yeah, but they all should know better than to go ahead without that order that you've given it to them, even if they're building it from the plan.
Did
So the
you know
short
that-
answer is, I think, Paul, in this case.
Did you know the work was going on?
No, no. Last time I talked to him, I said, you gotta put the erosion control in, call him, it was right after the meeting we had.
And just for the record, this is also in near a drainage basin from the wetlands under the road across along the side of that property. Within 30 or 40 feet of the actual construction site. And then to a wetlands directly behind the property or at the back side of the property. I think it's a part of the other property. Which does have some debris, a shed and then so forth that we had as the order conditions to be cleaned up. That's a side point, but because that wasn't expected to be done until the final signing off of the project, but this is an environmentally sensitive area. It's not in the middle of a development where there's nothing around it for wetlands and biology, and that's why we're having order of conditions out there. So, not to overbeat a project, but I will entertain a motion from the commission. You want to make one?
I make a motion to issue a stop work order on this project,
236 Blackstone.
226 Blackstone, due to work commencing without them recording the order conditions, until we have time to inspect the status of the site and determine whether work should continue.
And the conditions get filed and open inspections are complete.
Which includes Hannah coming out and checking themselves after or during. Okay, so we have that motion. Second, Steve.
I think your motion got a little out of hand there.
Still on?
Over.
Do you have a shorter version, you think, Neil?
No, I just think that was a little, I think it got a little extended.
So we have a stop, you re-summarize, which doesn't she made originally. All right.
Issue a stop work for 236
Blackstone.
Blackstone due to the order conditions not being filed, but work starting. And that we will determine based on the environmental conditions whether work can commence.
And the,
Assuming that the applicant filed the order conditions.
okay, that's a little shorter, I think, a little cleaner.
Second.
Okay, any other comments? All in favor? All right, opposed? Neil, you were silent.
Yeah, hit the mute button too late. Aye.
All right, thank you. Unanimous vote. All right, we'll proceed with that tomorrow. Hannah will have to reach out to find out exactly how we can issue a stop order, but Paul, you've been informed, so we can proceed to tell.
Two new things in one night.
8 things in one night. There you go.
I'll see you one.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, Paul. Okay, it is 10 after 8. anything?
Well, do we wanna try to do that first?
Oh, yes, thank you. Hi. Ms.
And she's
Benetti,
not
how
here.
are you? Yeah, we deferred this, update on the Wagner Pond, property and Lakeview Pond, situation until Renette got here, so we could, as the most interested abutter of the project and problems. Want to let you know that we have, viewed the site, I walked it with a representative from Mass, Norfolk, sorry, thank you, Norfolk Mosquito Control, who has been working with the DPW and a couple of DPW representatives a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember the exact date, but we walked outside, Bernard was there, walked us through the back of the property, which is affected by flooding from the backup of a undersized, over beavered area of drainage from some wetlands behind the property into Lakeview Pond. And what the recommendation is, the short-term, quickest, easiest, best, least impactful solution according to the DPW is to simply replace the 8-inch PVC pipe with a 18-inch PVC pipe, along with a couple of barriers that would deter beavers and allow, hopefully with some maintenance, which they would need to do, the DPW is willing to do that, with the Wagner's permission, come on site and clear the obstructions at both ends, the outflow and the inflow. It's running across an approximately 20-foot berm that runs, or track that runs around the perimeter of this triangular shaped pond. It was a man-made pond that was built many, many years ago. And it looks like it's a very minimal impact from the conservation point of view, because they do all the work on the track. They're doing an existingly disturbed area. The area, I have some pictures, but it's all rutted up anyway. They're not disturbing any vegetation really, except the crest of both sides of the berm where they're gonna dig down the pipe in. It looks like a good short-term solution to alleviate flooding for not just one of the neighbors who's here, but a couple of the other neighbors who are affected by it too. And we're going to, excuse me, work with the Wagners, who are the property owners, because this is agriculturally zoned land and wetlands about it, which is a little delicate dance. We're gonna have to work with them and the Norfolk County Who's Offered Resources to help clear away some of the brush that's floating in the water in the wetlands carefully. They're federally regulated and therefore not subject to our wetlands bylaws to go in, but they know how to do this. I was reassured by this lady Caroline who's there that they know what they're doing. They've done this many times and they'd be willing to offer some resources so it wouldn't cost us anything. The Wagners are being approached by the BPW about this, and I think that they have indicated, did we hear back from the BPW?
For,
Whether Wagners are okay with us doing it.
I have not heard back.
Okay, so we need to follow up and find that DPW is going to take it upon themselves to reach out. Both to tell them what would be involved with doing this work, which wouldn't cost them anything. And would relieve drainage issues that they have around the pond perimeter too. At least during peak rain. And so assuming we get the go ahead with that, I don't think there's really a need for any filing because it's really not doing work in a wetlands. It's next to on a track, replacing a DPW pipe. And given the fact that DPW, I believe, is exempted from just about any kind of work, correct me on the bylaw that was passed a number of town meetings ago?
They are exempt from the town bylaw, but they are not exempt from the WPA.
Right.
I think, would they still come through us and we just have to regulate in that aspect?
We could.
I think, Mike, we need to have a plan in place. They need.
Right, yeah.
We need a plan in place. They need to come before us. They need, at the very least, they need to get some sort of an RDA or something to proceed forward to work. They are working in a resource area.
Yeah, the rub here, Neil, is I'm not sure when it's agriculturally zoned and the actual wetlands delineation isn't clearly defined. So, well, no, I won't say that.
Well,
With the agricultural zone.
the agricultural does not give them an exemption to do whatever they want.
Right, no.
It
correct.
allows them some leeway.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's still a pond. So it still is above the law.
It's a man-made pond, but it's not.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That just means it's not a Great Lake.
It doesn't matter who made it.
Okay, so what the commission, it looks like, wants to do is to direct the DPW to provide us with a plan notice. It wouldn't necessarily be a notice of intent, would it? If it's just
They
the
have
WPA?
before based on me going through Ann's records for things, but I don't know what those were based upon.
I was wondering if it was an RDA, request for determination with applicability in this case.
I think those are usually- Or if you.
We could certainly start that way, and if it became more, we could certainly turn it into an NOI.
I mean, the DPW just would like to see it get done for the sake of the abutters as well as,
Of course they would, but
yeah, and want to work with us. I mean, they weren't saying, well, this is what we're gonna do, you just better like it or anything. They said, how does this sound? And do we need to go before the commission? They asked. I said, well, let me talk to the commission once we've got a sense from you what you want to do. And meantime, they're gonna talk to Wagners, because if Wagners doesn't want to do this, I'm not sure we can do anything about it. I think that they will be amenable to it, but it's their property. And yet they can't negatively impact other people's property by not doing something or causing hardship on the other neighbors, so.
But there, people have wetlands on their property and they're still subject to wetlands protection.
I don't know the regulations about when it comes to agricultural zoning. Agricultural zoning has affected that other projects in that area, included review by the Conservation Commission when we had to review the petting zoo years ago. Kind of knows that. But I just question, I'm not saying we can't do it and we shouldn't regulate it, I'm just throwing that out there that that's an additional wrinkle that we need to unravel somehow, and probably we can get some advice from people that know. It could be our circuit rider might have some suggestions.
Like I said, they get some special treatment because it is agricultural. However, they are not exempt.
Right.
Yeah, they can do like clear cutting and like spray pesticides. I think that's about it.
Ooh.
Agricultural.
Oh, no,
The town is gonna pay for doing work on a private structure on a private property.
No,
Because-
the county. That's what he's asking, right?
No, the DPW is, the
Yeah.
DPW has pipe, they figure it's a couple hours worth of work. Minimal cost, benefit to some neighbors who are having flooding problems. And given the scope of what I've seen, I don't think it would be much more than that, because it is a very straightforward, at least on paper, and looking at that on the site, looking project. However, I don't have any problem with them going through the process of applying and because it is jurisdictional area around that, and they may not have even got permission from the Wagners yet, so I don't know. We have to verify a bunch of things too.
I mean, really, technically, the Wengers would have to file. Not the town, because it's not town property.
In this case, we have we have a butter who is negatively affected by the impact, who's asking how she can get relief. And some of the neighbors around her, I'm sure, would also like to know, although they have not come to us.
Would be to go through the proper route of having people who deal with this review their plan and refine it.
They that you're talking about.
The DPW, so
Okay, well, and they drafted this up and said, if this doesn't do it, let us know.
did they just say like 18-inch pipe? Like, did they do any calculations, or did they just like pick a number? I don't know.
They're trying to avoid the best solution long term. This, by the way, is because of drainage coming from Stephen Road that's causing this wetlands area to fill up with water and back up because it can't keep up when it's blocked. That pipe is blocked, that flows into the pond. When the pipe is not blocked, it apparently flows fine and they don't back up. But the water source that's causing most of the backup into the abutters is caused by the town.
For the brook that the town has the easement to, there, that's.
Right, but it's drainage from the
Yeah,
street
about here.
basin, from the town
where
road.
it all
So
comes
that's why the
from.
town is willing to go out and maintain this, because they in a way have created, be using this, what's been in place for a long time probably, drainage system, into an area that, who knows, maybe it shouldn't, but anyway.
Well, I think what's confusing and might clear it up is the reason why they need the Wagner's permission is because the pipe that's currently there does not touch Wagner property. The one they want to put in will touch their property. If that wasn't clear,
Well, the track, I think, is their property too.
where the end of the pipe that they're,
Oh, the pipe, that
Right now,
stops
it's
on,
not-
at the end of Bernadette's property is on your property, correct?
Right.
How much
Right.
further than that does your property go before we hit the wetlands there? Roughly,
I'm really not sure. It's marked there somewhere.
but a couple of strides at least. It's
Yeah.
not just right on the edge. Okay, yeah. So there is some, where it comes out of the pipe, it's exposed, when the surface runs for a little while, and then it hits the wetlands and slows down and becomes part of this wetlands that flows into eventually that pipe. But there's quite a distance fall. The long-term, that solution, when I asked the DPW what their opinion was, is to, if they get the pitch from the street, pitch a pipe all the way from Stephen Road to the pond. But that would be a huge capital expenditure that for improving the conditions for one or two abutters or property owners is probably not gonna be approved by the town. And it would be a lot of pipe, trees excavated, a major DPW effort and impacting wetlands big time, as opposed to this short-term thing. So
Well, I don't,
Yeah.
shortcuts are just not the way to go.
well,
We have rules, we need to make sure this is done properly. There needs to be engineering, it needs to be done the proper way. Just the DPW with a backhoe and some pipe is not the solution.
so
It's not the 1950s.
I'm open to a suggestion from the commission, what they want to do and how they want to proceed with this, and to be able to have the abutter who's sitting here and negatively affected by this, hear what our next steps are. So I'm open to suggestions, just somebody bring something up.
Well, I think Hannah should reach out to them.
who's that?
Yeah, you specify how.
The DPW.
Okay.
Yeah.
And ask them to file those, and maybe have them decide which one they think will be most.
An RDA or an NOI.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, yeah.
You can do that. Okay,
Yeah, we can certainly start with an RDA, but that, that starts the process in a formal way and allows us to make a public hearing and make an informed decision about what is proposed and where, and not just, well, they're gonna go put in some pipe.
It's still to follow the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection, Act, not exempt from that.
okay, so we have a motion to have Hannah reach, or not a motion, but we have a suggestion, there isn't a formal motion necessary because we're not actually, I just realized that we don't actually have a hearing here, this is just information. So we have a process that we're gonna move forward on. If the commission is in agreement on it, any other input for the commission? If not, Bernadette, are you clear on what it is we're proposing doing now?
Yes, I am, but a lot of the problem starts with that brook that the town is responsible for, correct?
The brook, you mean,
The brook where all the water from the road is draining
oh,
into.
the one that comes out of the
That
pipe.
pipe there is the pipe that goes over to the other property. So in fact, it is the town. When he said it's, we're paying for something that's really not the town's, it is the town's.
Right. The drain, there's no denying, because the DPW has admitted to it, that drain pipe that comes out at the end of your property and flows into wetlands is coming from stormwater drainage
Right,
on the
yes.
street that
Right.
the town maintains.
Right.
Right,
So-
and again, if that's the case, then the town needs to make changes to that drainage system that is town property or on a town easement or whatever. They still need to file.
Looks like they did for several recent projects.
Okay, all right, Bernadette, so we are gonna move forward with it. You can keep in touch with Hannah or myself if you want to hear what the latest is, because you are definitely affected and weather's coming, who knows, the fall's like, we'll see how fast and excuse me, what course it takes. If we are having a formal hearing process, you definitely can, and we'll let you know, okay?
But right now, as far as having that pipe replaced with a larger pipe,
Immediately, it won't happen because we want the DPW to go through that. They kind of asked, is it okay just to come to us? And I said, well, we'll have to talk to the commission. So we've talked to the commission. The short answer for yourself, your husband and the neighbors is we haven't stopped the project. We are just going to go through a different channel, more proper, appropriate channels with the DPW and see about a plan and so forth to make sure it's done right. If the Conservation Commission approves of whatever plan is finally presented. I don't think it's a lengthy process only because what the DPW is willing to do now is fairly straightforward, but they still need to go through the process. Okay. All right, thank you. All right. I'd like to reopen 217 and give commission the opportunity to hear a bit more of an update, but I would also like to set a time period so that we can respect certain members who have to travel very far here in this room. And for the fact that we have had, it's not like you haven't heard something. So if you want to come back up, what is the commission's sense? Throw out a number. Minutes, not hours.
How many minutes?
How much more time would you like to allocate tonight? We've given them half an hour.
Is there other business we need to?
There's a few minor administrative things, but we can,
10, 15 minutes?
yeah. Oh, say 15 minutes, all in favor, okay. I'm sorry, fine.
I can't see Jeff's face clearly. That's too bad.
What do I need to look at?
Thank you, Brenda.
thank you, good night.
Say the word.
Okay, so, Austin, you want to pick up where you, I guess we continue this, I should reopen it officially.
Yeah.
So we're reopening the continued hearing from earlier this evening at 7 o'clock till 7:30 before 217 Hartford Avenue, the warehouse. And Austin Turner is going to pick up where he left. Oh, thank you, Austin.
Again, for the record, Austin Turner with Bowler, and I will name that tune in very few notes, so we can continue on with this program. So we had talked about wetland mitigation area 22, a good thorough detailed discussion. I think the consensus was we all feel pretty comfortable with how that's starting to evolve, and we're going to advance that. The next one here are areas 3, 4, and 5. For context, just so you can keep back in, we're talking about this area right here. And this area right here. Can't see my cursor, sir. You kind of can, but not really. It's the center middle of the screen. We're going to run up there and point. We got it. Yeah. So this one here has continued to, is my screen? Is it a lag on there?
There might be lagging, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it earlier.
I am
Are you seeing it?
In the content, or
Are you seeing it on there?
We can see it here, it's very slow.
There it
No,
goes. Wow, guys. Could've gone home and then started doing it.
Closer.
Yeah, I think it's Jeff's phone. It's an old BlackBerry. So this here is another mitigation area. This has not changed appreciably from our last meeting. There was fairly limited discussion about this one. So it remains largely as was previously proposed. We did have very limited refining of the grading and such, but feel pretty comfortable that this is consistent, at least from our collaborative session, and ready to kind of advance into that next phase. Any questions about this one here? I can kind of recap it if you want, but hasn't changed much since our last.
One with the, is it pine trees, wasn't pine cypress? No.
That's the next one. It's the next one.
Okay, so it's cypress, wasn't cypress.
Fantastic segue, as a matter of fact. So
Cypress?
Did you mean cedar, Mike?
Cedar, thank you. I know it was
Yeah.
a something, but I didn't think cypress was up here.
Cypress, you're in the wrong climate.
Yeah,
Thank you.
well, climate warming, global warming.
Mr. Chair, before we move off of this,
Mm-hmm.
did,
Yes, go ahead.
did, Matt make a recommendation to shift a couple things on this?
that was my recollection. That's the next one we talked about after this one. We had some refinement of the footprint on the next one. And if that's incorrect, you can tell me when we get to the other one, but I think I know what you're talking about. So this is the area, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I noticed it looks like groundwater elevation on that other plan is higher than the estimated seasonal high groundwater.
On this screen specifically, I'm only asking because the lag was a little, I want to make sure I'm on the right plan.
Yeah, it was on the previous plan, which I don't think we have to go back to because I believe people are, yeah.
That is the one that's
345.
an elevation, maybe.
That's how you're looking at 345. Yeah.
Yeah, so this one up here, this wetland, you can see my cursor moving slow to make sure it catches up. This one here, the wetland that's kind of the bottom of the page is elevation 234. This wetland up top is, we're maintaining elevation 234. The systems that are more proximate to that driveway, the existing wetland resource areas are around elevation 220. But we're maintaining the bottom of those at 220 for consistency.
So is that with the data next to the test pits?
These two test pits that are right kind of on the left side of the image, they're further up gradient and kind of embedded in the hill, so you're gonna see groundwater at a probably a higher elevation. That gradient trends again here towards the upper right corner of the screen. So where we were doing some of the soil augering and some of our sidewalk stuff, we were seeing that groundwater at very shallow elevation, groundwater the wetland surface elevations, which is why we maintain those grading for the new or the expanded wetland at a similar elevation to what they are today.
I'm just a little confused as to why it looks like there's two groundwater elevations given.
Wait, I'll just zoom right in on there so we can.
For the M series, which is Andrea Kendall with the LEC, the M series wetland, which is on the bottom, is actually higher in elevation than, and that's the Atlantic White Cedar Swamp, than the existing cart path. So from the past, sand and gravel operations, they actually lowered the ground elevation in that area where the cart path is. So, which also has higher groundwater elevations in that location where the existing wetland occurs at the bottom of the slope. If that helps.
Are these the two,
Right.
these on the left here, those are the two you're pointing to that you're seeing a discrepancy between the
Yeah.
elevations?
Well, I'm just not sure, like, it says groundwater elevation, so like IFB 5AR says groundwater elevation plus or minus 237, but then it says estimated seasonal high groundwater plus or minus 231.
They're saying, so the ground surface elevation, and they were counting, that's the ground
Oh.
surface, yeah, sorry.
So I can't read, is what I'm saying.
No, for the record, I can understand the confusion though.
Engineering.
The ground surface elevation is 237, the ground seasonal high is approximately 231.67.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense now that I'm
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't reading what you were reading, but I get it
Well,
now.
it's reading around, so sorry. Okay.
So in the interest of time, this is the one where,
Give me extra.
as the voice of God, Neil Stanley pointed out, this is where the white cedars are. And this is the area here that we're gonna do some selective grading in there, but the idea is that the white cedars, which are viable, sustainable, and are thriving, we're gonna create on natural hummocks, which essentially means we're gonna maintain the ground elevation in that location, and then selectively and strategically excavate around them to lower this area, but we're not lowering it appreciably. And that kind of selective grading will be done, obviously, again, with oversight from Andrea's team as well as your team. But this area here is just a slight expansion. How we're cutting down a little bit of that boulder pile in here and then tying the grades back. But beyond that, we're kind of using the existing topography and then strategically lowering it a little bit around those white cedars.
And there's gonna be maybe a dozen or so or more of these.
The remain, I don't know the number offhand, it's hard to say, but there was a cluster of those white cedars. I don't know the numbers specifically though.
There was a pretty good amount scattered through there.
Yeah,
It was nice to see, them sort of migrating.
There's something you can put on the plan when you're developing.
yeah, we can maybe go into the extent that we're able to identify those in this limit, potentially, make a note of that for you, is to, you're saying, identify the cedars which we're gonna keep. Is that what you're asking?
I would say put all of them on if you can. And
You don't have to name them.
just like count
We
them.
talked about it.
Probably the diameter is pretty good as well. You could probably, maybe they could do a range instead of section numbers or maybe not like less than a certain, less than 24 inches. And then
Group them into size.
if it's like no more than 50.
How far is this, Andrea, from the rest of the white cedar on the back, that's over behind Home Depot towards, North Main Street?
Well, I think the M series is behind that to the left and left. And
Good
that's the
context for
Atlantic white cedar swamp in that area.
Over
So
here.
it's pretty close. I'll just, if Brian's recollection of the area, there were like 10 to 20 Atlantic white cedars that, you know, we could strategically save some, I don't know all, so that's gonna, I think, somewhat a field condition call, I think would be our goal.
I'm just wondering how far they have migrated. I mean, I know trees can do that. I mean, they've already got their trunk back, so.
Yeah.
All times.
Yeah, we did see it, in other sections.
Yep.
Of that card path, if you, when we were going through the woods, plan north. In the buffer zone area, I think, for the existing one.
You said they already have their trunks packed.
That's why trees can migrate, because they've already got the trunk.
Want to make sure everybody got that.
They got the possibles, they're pretty solid.
Or one of those, wrappers that you get. Fortune cookies. Anyway, okay.
I did-
Sliding right along, because we
Sliding right
have
along.
5 minutes. That's
So-
5 minutes till the store closes, people.
And I'm not sure that the jokes went right after 5 minutes too. The area that we're looking at last tonight is this area here. Kind of opposite the one that we spent the majority of time on earlier in the meeting. So this area here, if you remember, is a section of where the raw water main currently exists. And we ultimately are going to be relocating to our driveway into the paved section through our discussions with DPW. Also part of the trail located in here, and this is, if you can visualize, we used to walk through here and it was kind of that low-lying thorny material, but not a lot of dense canopy. And there's some of those scattered wetland systems in here. So this is the area, Steve, I think this is what you're referring to, where Matt had a little bit more input as to areas we should
And
consider.
actually suggesting shape changes.
Correct, yeah, so this is that area. So what we're doing here, these kind of isolated circles are going to be just simply artificial mounds in there that are boulder piles, and we're gonna remove those. the area that you have kind of you've identified here in green. Again, a lot of that topography in there is artificial mounding that was created when they were removing or stockpiling material. You can see this kind of high spot in the topography is a ridge that was created with stockpile boulders and other material. We're gonna take that out and then kind of gently grade it back to blend it in and make it more consistent elevation with some of the wetlands that are proximate to that area. And then you can see kind of over here, the lower left corner, again, that's one of those artificial mounds. And conveniently, that topography that's in there that's immediately up against the wetland is this very flat gradual descent into that wetland system. We're simply just going to gently pull that contour back and allow it to kind of marry up against more of the natural steeper topography that kind of creates that low spot boundary. That was something that Matt was asking us to consider, which is what we've incorporated here into the sketch to kind of pull that back because it makes a lot of logical sense to do that. It's almost behaving that way today anyway. So this area was one that kind of got expanded the most, but it makes a lot of sense as we were kind of sitting down and working with Steve, Matt, and Hannah to kind of round it out.
The overall square footage, it's a floating calculation because you guys are constantly modifying these, but for the replication areas.
We're over 2 to 1. We're over 2 to 1 right now.
You are.
Yep. And I think we've achieved that. And, you know, one of the overarching themes that kind of embedded in some of these sessions and the discussions we're having with the commission, frankly, have been making sure that the mitigation areas that we're contemplating are appropriate for the mitigation. And it's not simply let's go dig a giant hole somewhere. It's like, you know, this one, for example, there's not a lot of stuff around that well. It's thorny, low-lying stuff. And we're going to enhance that. And the grades there doesn't require a lot of earthwork to make that happen. So strategically and logically, it makes a lot of sense, you know. So, and we're over the 2 to 1 ratio with that logic having been kind of applied through all the areas we talked about.
Okay.
Can we go back to area 2, please?
Only because you asked nicely.
There was some discussion relative, I'm gonna get the phraseology incorrect. A stream that may or may not be intermittent and how that interacted. And there was requiring some possible research.
That's a good question. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So what we talked about was, if you remember, there's a stretch of this wetland series, and I can zoom in a little bit. And I think what we actually, it was referred to anecdotally during one of our prior discussions as kind of a kidney bean shaped area on the plan. If you recall, maybe the overall plan actually shows a bit better. Find that. Yeah, this shows a bit. So this kind of kidney shaped bean right here. I don't know if, yeah, my cursor. Yep. So that's the stretch of the wetland A series that has that stretch is the perennial stream, and which has the riverfront boundary attached to it. If you recall, it's kind of like the drainage area that feeds, and that's the part of that wetland that we all determined to be perennial. So that riverfront buffer applies to that stretch of the wetland series. And the discussion that Steve's referring to was this mitigation area that we're proposing is obviously within a portion of that riverfront buffer. And the discussion we had at our last collaborative session was a review, and we actually broke out the riverfront regulations to confirm that wetland mitigation was allowed to be completed in a riverfront buffer. And we all collectively confirmed that. Matt provided consensus to that opinion, and Brian from LEC shared that opinion. So there's a consensus that reached that this is a item and a feature that is allowed to be constructed within the riverfront buffer. I think, Steve, that's what you're referring to, is there's a jurisdictional clarification that was achieved at that.
Was there any minimum or maximums in that?
No, it was almost an exemption that you could do this work in there because it was within the spirit and intent of the riverfront to put wetland mitigation within that buffer.
Didn't Matt indicate that there's a unique element to that it doesn't perform purely as a perennial stream at certain times, or there was some element that didn't change it, but it created a little bit of additional consideration?
I think My recollection was that we were talking about the distinctions between what would be considered perennial and what would be considered intermittent. And then that brought us to the discussion of, well, this will be within the buffer of a perennial stream. And that led us to the Riverfront Protection Act, just to clarify that this was in fact the item that was allowed in that buffer.
It was that sequence.
All right, well, that's been a pretty good wrap up of those areas. Does that encapsulate both meetings that you had pretty much, or is that just one of the two?
Correct, yeah, so the items we had distributed October 16th, I think, or for the, yeah, October 16th reflected the working session prior. The documents we reviewed tonight are inclusive of the materials that we had provided on the 16th, but also the evolution of those documents resulting from our most recent collaborative session. That's what you're looking at tonight. So these are the evolved version of the prior iteration of the plans. But nothing that we talked about tonight we didn't skip anything that was talked about previously. It just represents kind of a continuation of that.
So the numbers, including, on site, have all now been brought up to speed on how those two meetings have gone so far. And you're proposing the third and final meeting to be held at some point in time, a scheduled date, or are you not sure about what you think on this?
Haven't scheduled yet, I think. So what I'm inferring tonight is that, like I said before, we have to finish the engineering here. And in order for us to finish the engineering, I wanted to make sure there was a level of comfort established between us and the commission that these locations make logical sense,
Yep.
because now we're gonna go finish all the math. Once the math is complete, that's when I would suggest I want to schedule one more working session with Matt and his team and Steve and Hannah to go through and start talking about some of the refined hydrology that we're discussing, make sure there's no other feedback. Then it will get incorporated formally into the plan set. And we'll be there, but I think one more working session probably gets us home there.
Given it was 2 and 3, I think 3 public meetings and 2 working sessions, that was the scope of the BSC most current approved and funded, I believe, project by Matt. He was
So
going,
this was second one.
We just funded a second one.
Yeah.
you did, okay.
We did.
Yeah.
Approved it, or you just
Did we go?
throw something? I don't know, does anybody on the commission remember, do we vote on that at some previous
We
meeting?
did.
I think so.
I thought Matt was working on it last I heard. I remember talking to him, he was sitting over there, he's like, oh yeah, I gotta work on that. And I don't remember if that was 2 meetings ago or 3. But since we haven't talked to you about anything for several meetings now, I want to make sure that we haven't missed out on the need to make sure that you're funded for BSC so that we can proceed with that third meeting. Because I kind of remember it was 2 originally working sessions, and that was one more than I thought. I thought we sort of basically we'll do 1, but that's fine too. And then 3, I think, was the public meetings that he had in the scope. And again, I want to make sure BSC primarily for their sake, but also for ours, is covered for it.
Our
So,
recollection is he took the direction from that conversation. I remember him sitting over here as well. He provided to Hannah a scope and that was consistent with the conversation that evening, and that's what got executed and turned into and funded.
I signed it. Neither of us can sign it, so I just signed it, so maybe that's why.
all right, that's fine. I just want to make sure it's covered. All right, so you would like to continue to what time, date?
Yeah, I guess so.
So November is 1 meeting and it's on the 8th. December 13th is the 1 meeting in December.
Thanksgiving.
I know it's a weird time.
Might be a little early, but
It is,
because
that's gonna be hard to.
Yeah, Steve has a question while you think about dates. Good.
It's my understanding that you were looking for some vote of confidence that this is good, and should you proceed
Yeah.
with additional engineering, and wouldn't that steer when your next meeting would be? Is
I
that
think
correct?
that's what Austin more or less just said a moment ago. Is there, are we there with the
Well,
commission? in terms
I
of
don't
that?
think the commission is going to be in a position to vote.
No,
We said vote of
No.
confidence, my word, ears focus on the word vote.
Not a hard vote that these were finished.
If you wanted a candid, not off the record, because we are on the record, a candid sense of straw poll, so to speak, opinion of how the commission feels,
that's something the commission members can share if they want to, and you can act on that as you want to, but I don't think we're doing any kind of vote on this.
No, it was just a phrase.
Okay, all right, so I understand. I just want to make sure it's clear for the record. So if the commission has anything that they'd like to say one way or the other about that, their opinion on how the applicant may want to proceed with an additional planning meeting down the road after they crunch some numbers and get things lined up based on what they've heard from us for questions. That's fine. If you think there's a lot that still needs to be figured out before they go down that route, and you think we want to save them some amount of time and effort and money, and want to speak up about that or what it is, then that's something you should say now, probably. Let me ask the offsite person. Neil, you have anything?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thanks. Well, okay, Steve.
I'd like to see one more meeting at the next stage. I think they have some work to do relative to flow rates and getting that
100%.
managed, and glad to see we're up a little over 2-1. If we could stay there, that would be better for the whole program. I'd like to see it to the next level.
Okay. All right.
I think it's certainly an improvement from the initial plans presented, but in terms of like moving forward, I think I need that information that you're going to be ready step to really decide that.
But you're not having any immediate negative reactions, I think is what the best you're gonna get.
That's a fair way.
And I think that that's the consensus right now of the existing members here. And, you know, it's like, okay, so based on that, November, did you guys decide November, December?
I think we're gonna have to say December 13th. I think that's gonna give us time to do the work we need to do, and then our calendar of meeting with anything.
Yeah, you can just.
So just to be clear, you want to come back to us to do a meeting on December 13th, but prior to that, you want to have the third planning meeting, you'll think of your numbers
Yes.
crunched, and you want to form
Yes,
another
and then,
meeting with
and then
Steve.
hopefully have, Hannah, Steve, Matt.
If any other
hopefully
commission
have
member,
them all.
Ariane, Noel, or Neil, any of you want to attend these meetings, just let Hannah know, and she'll make sure she keeps you in the loop as to when it's scheduled for. And you're more than welcome to sit in as long as we don't have quorum, which I don't think will become an issue. Yes.
Just one comment. You guys are with planning board as well, right?
We are.
Okay, just because I've heard word of mouth that maybe some of the site visuals could change and potentially impact replication sites, maybe not. I know that.
I don't think so. Anything that, so our focus right now with the planning board
Yeah.
has been exclusively, or at least the last handful of meetings have been on the driveway and the mechanics of the site entrance driveway
Yeah,
coming into the site.
Yeah,
That won't influence anything that we're talking
Okay.
about tonight. The next part that is related, but I don't expect to have any influence over this, is this discussion we're having right now,
Which
Yeah.
the opposite.
is actually driving some of the stormwater refinements that we're gonna be making and then and going back with BSC on. But the mitigation area is kind of locking in, so to speak.
Okay.
Allow us to then finish that part, but I don't expect that they'll influence anything in terms of the geometry or grading. that we're talking about.
my point, which that's good to hear, is just to make sure that whatever changes are happening on that end, that we also see.
Yeah,
those changes on our
100%.
side.
No, of course.
Just wanted to make sure.
It's the other way around. It's this process that's driving, finalizing the information that needs
Okay.
to go to planning with that
Awesome.
particular piece.
So on the existing plan, is that the crossing right over the stream there, pretty much where the jog in the road is?
Yeah,
Is
right
that the
there.
one? Oh, that's the crossing stream there? Okay, I thought it was further out towards the side. Have you guys gotten to the level with the planning board of the actual structure that's gonna cross over there, the grade, the construction of it, retaining walls on the sides, et cetera?
So we've talked about that with them. Frankly, the discussion we've had with this commission has been the predominant driving factor about how that actually looks. And the plans that we haven't looked at those plans in a long time because we've been so kind of focused. Have all the detailing for what that culvert looks like, the structure form. The retaining walls will be designed by a structural engineer, but we've kind of established a little bit of work there and how the culvert looks and all the stream crossing standards. It's all embedded in those plans.
Yeah, I only brought that up because you mentioned that you're in that point with the planning board, and if things are gonna change, or if you have things to find that much.
No, the entrance drive that Austin's referring to is way up by Pizza.
Right by Hartford Avenue.
Yeah, like that
Yeah.
physical
I
intersection.
didn't know exactly how far, but
No.
the crossing of the stream there. Well, the culvert and the underwater and in the water process may have been laid out pretty clearly and so forth. I had raised an issue well, I don't know, it's not a year ago, but a number of many site visits ago, when we were walking down the hill there, that when you tried to describe how it's gonna have to pitch for the trucks and so forth to get how elevated it was gonna be, that we are going over a tributary to the Charles River there, that stream, that my concern is with a long pitch like that, you know what I said, salt. You're gonna be treating that to keep the trucks from slipping and sliding and losing control, and cars and stuff going in and out. You've got to be able to keep the salt out of that area because you can't mitigate for salt. I mean, treat for salt, sorry, mitigate for salt.
Yeah.
Eliminate it and then you treat it for it or mitigate it. But that's just throwing that back out there only because that will affect us as far as wetlands and deterioration and so forth. And so even though it's a structural, physical thing, if you're waiting to get the structures finally designed by an engineer and you're that far along in the process and it's not, that consideration hasn't been taken into account, it will be brought up again at some point in time. And I hate to have it too far down the road.
It's fine, it's not fine, I have snow written down here with a red underline. And salt. It's all,
Thank you.
so that's something we're gonna be addressing with the commission.
Mr. Chair. Just to expand two things, just to expand on what Mike said, obviously, when you discuss, look into your flow rates, Austin, introducing a certain amount of salt into a vernal pool may have an impact on the budget, on the life. But the other point, unrelated to your next step, I did kind of ask questions about this at the last workshop. And I would like to see something in maybe the conditions is that when the work is being done, your team is overseeing, and we're not gonna find out half the cedar trees have been bumped over by the excavator or something silly because some silly faux pas with conditions not being picked up.
The contractor was responsible for it.
On large projects like this, we usually require an environmental monitor on site.
Yeah, I think that.
That's my expectation too. I think it's a great idea.
That's typically how we've done it on these large projects. There will be one of Andrew's people or somebody that the applicant has selected, that they will be on site monitoring the activity in the buffer zone and the wetland creation and the vernal pool creation and all that work will be overseen by a environmental professional.
Qualified, certified, and authorized to stop things if things are out of hand. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's we've got that language in most of these big projects.
Okay.
I still can't get over the fact that Neil Somsky's speaking from like
Yes.
the heavens.
Speaking from where?
The heavens.
He's gonna be watching. this.
Yeah, that's me. Yep.
It's not in the drone, he's overhead.
Ethereal.
So if anyone has any other comments, please make them. If not, we'll move to take a motion and continue this hearing to the evening of December 13th at approximately 7 o'clock, time to be set just before a week or so before when the agenda is posted, which is usually the Monday before the meeting, so yeah, firm time. And if there's anybody wants to make that motion, I'll accept it. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Neil, thank you. Okay, opposed? No? Okay, then unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
For your calendar. Most likely for workshop would give you enough time and then to review the 13th of November that week or the 27th. So before and after Thanksgiving makes most sense to give you guys.
Don't want to do Thanksgiving, huh? Okay, Thanksgiving week.
Are you bringing the turkey?
Like it's not the day, but the Monday. 13th to 27th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Question, and this would be for Hannah. Austin, when you transmit the documents to Hannah, are you sending them zipped?
Only if the file size exceeds what I think will be acceptable, but I can send it via an accessible download link. That's easier.
If you could,
No problem.
'cause when she puts them on the website, I gotta open each one and download it one at a time.
Oh, I see. I can zip them. It's easy enough to do. Yeah, no problem.
Zipped or unzipped, but if it was a download link, that's through Dropbox or something, that's
So what I'll do is, I don't know if the download links that I customarily send are accessible, but via email, and they inherently have an expiration date on it. So what I'll do is I will zip the file at a minimum so it can be condensed on the website, and then I'll have everything in there.
Any chance you could copy me on it? Is that possible?
Protocol.
I personally love how you're doing it, but I wanna make Steve happy, so whatever
If,
he wants.
one of you can send me Steve's email address, I have no problem copying. it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the protocol thing, because it's providing the same information, just in a slightly different
Yeah,
format
just
that's more
forwarding it.
accessible for the time period when it's needed.
So-
If somebody was fighting here and they wanted larger print, I'd say, fine.
Yeah, I think we've been,
And he's been.
No,
we sent many to Hannah and
Thanks,
Connie
but
for the.
I'll just
for
read
the
it.
rest of you were
We
happy
have
to
long change.
copy you
We
all.
do have to, there's some threads in there, yeah.
All right,
Okay.
well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Right. Curtis Apartments, you want to update us?
Yep, I went on an inspection site, me, Tim, and
Some of them.
I forget the person that was working,
DPW some person or?
no, it was the guy in charge of making sure everything was good, and,
Is that Neil?
yeah. I'm scrolling down my email, it doesn't really matter.
So we had two dot loops were
There
provided.
are
so that
two
we
dot
could-
loops because, yeah, one was for the roadway, one was for the actual complex, and Anne had already done a site visit with them. It was either late spring or early summer. And they edited what she commented on. So I basically was inspecting what they were fixing. Everything looked good.
But I think pile of dirt they have off to the downhill side of this site, closer towards Franklin.
Yeah, we talked about that.
What about it?
Well, so not in our order of conditions at all. First of all, not their property. It's the guy next to it, and it's complicated. I try to understand it.
I'm only concerned if we get runoff coming down into our detention basin that flows into a wetland, the resource area across the street. We cleared that all out, and when they started the project, the Curtis apartments, and
So
Curtis rules so they keep it clear, so I don't know if they can do that.
he explained to me that whole retention basin thing, was a bonus thing that they did because
They absolutely have to,
they
because it's
didn't
not
have to,
their
'cause
site.
it's not theirs, and,
Yeah.
I didn't. Whoever does own it wasn't budging. I don't know if it's DOT, it's someone state level. I
Yeah,
think.
it's the state road, yeah. Okay.
And so they just said, we'll do it. So they did, and we did look at that and assess that. But like in terms of my job of making sure our conditions were good, none
Okay,
of that was
all right, that's
involved
fine.
with it.
Fair
so-
enough, I don't want to strain, but we straight tonight, once or twice, it's not,
Right.
we don't get out. Okay, any other comments before you urge people to sign the dot loop documents, the two of them you sent out today, I did mine. Quick, easy, 2 clicks, you're done.
Mike did win this time. Noel second.
I signed those
I think
this
you did.
afternoon.
You want credit? Here, let me make sure.
No, Noel was ahead of me, and then Mike was first.
You could beat Neil.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're like last place every
I
time.
know that, but you didn't like when I signed like. Wednesday afternoon.
All right, I need to talk briefly about tomorrow's sidewalk, Prospect Street.
Mhm.
So as you know, I'm not gonna go into executive session because this is gonna be happening tomorrow. It's something that I don't think needs to go to executive session. We're gonna be doing a sidewalk at the request of the Department of Environmental Protection, like President Thompson doing that, I think.
It is, yeah.
Who has asked us to come on site along with the applicant, Luke Petrosi and his representative, engineers, et cetera. And walk the site to have a discussion and meet on the site and have a discussion. So I got the impression this may be a walking, talking meeting in the DP's point of view. I've been checking with Hannah, with town council, Beth, Colonel Smith, and others, and getting some opinions from our town council about this. We'll make sure we're legally covering ourselves, doing the right thing. Number one, we can't have a quorum. So, sorry, but unless one of you others you want to come, we should just keep it to me for now.
I
Tomorrow at
cannot.
10:30. Okay, that's fine. Just let you know.
Is
So
this
quorum-
Prospect Hill
Prospect
Estates?
Hill Estates, yeah. So what they're going to review at the DP hearing and walk through thing, which we've never had as far as I know, on any site, maybe Neil will remember. Is to review the denial and the basis of the denial that Cliff Matthews and our BSC consultant, Matt Barnes wrote.
Is Matt gonna be there tomorrow?
Matt will be there tomorrow. He can't wait. So-
We're paying him.
Yes, we're paying him, so that's part of what I have. So we have received a BSC change order of up to $2,500 to cover additional services, since I think his money and his dealing with Prospect Street has expired and he's done everything he's been asked to do. We went through the denial. He helped participate in writing that with Cliff, which, as I mentioned before, was an excellent denial apparently. But to continue the services, so $2,500 isn't just for tomorrow. That's his hourly rate estimated for a certain number of hours tomorrow, and then some additional follow-up that would be needed and so forth. So we would need to, we have about $700 in the administrative account right now, so we have funds. This would not come from an applicant because we're doing this, so we need to, I think, vote to approve up to $2,500 for BSC if you are amenable to it, to help support the review of the denial. And that's the scope that Matt had written up. It's, you know, not a wide open-ended thing. It's to support us in whatever way, including sidewalk.
But how much?
It's up to $2,500 is what they estimate.
I make a motion to approve $2,500 to fund BSC's attendance at the site visit tomorrow.
And additional follow-up meetings that need.
And
Yeah.
additional scope as required.
Otherwise, Matt, we'd be very happy to take $200 for an hour or two. It's like, what? No, he emphasized, because I questioned that, right? I was like, no, this, and he said, no, you're, you're right. It's, whatever's needed up to that amount. And this is an additional change order. We already have the original agreement in place. All right, so.
8,700 is like a fund that he has for general consulting for us. It's like just.
Not for him per se. I think it.
It's under our budget line, it's under professional services, which we're probably gonna need for, we have to renew our open space plan. So
There could be a variety of things.
there's a lot of things.
It could also probably be what pays for the annual. Also, probably for the $150 if you pay, if you want to participate in the annual meeting, I think it probably comes out of that too. The conservation commission pays for that. If you have other classes or courses that you feel will be helpful,
That's a different budget line though.
that is, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion from Steve.
I'll
Do we have a
second.
second? We have a second?
Ariane.
Any other discussion? All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Now?
Wholeheartedly, aye.
Okay,
Oh,
great, thank you.
I just
Second-
wanted to add,
Go ahead.
apparently I have a very quiet voice. I don't know if you guys watch the meetings or if you turn captioning on, it's hilarious. But I have a very quiet voice, so if you could, like when I second or move, if you could say my name.
That's fine. So Ariane seconded that motion. Steve made it. Thank you. Okay, that's approved. Now, in talking to the town, I tried to get Beth, who was working with us, to try to get this on a short notice, partly because I was out of town for a week and that slowed it down a little bit. Find out, and after talking to Matt, he agreed, it would be helpful if we came, I don't say loaded for bear, that's not a good term for it, but we came as fully prepared with all the expertise we might need to answer any questions the DEP might have. I have no idea, we've never done this. So I've asked Cliff Matthews if he was willing to do that. He is, as a consultant.
Thanks, Cliff.
So, the town wanted to cover themselves. So first they had to check with town council. Board of Selectmen said, basically, if the town council signs off on it, okay. If they don't, then no, they don't want to get themselves down like, and we don't want to either. The other reason that we want to do this is because, we don't want Luke Trozy and his people there to have any issues with. Okay, well, the applicant and other people that are appearing there to have a property owner to have any reason to refuse to let someone come on the property because they are not part of a recognized, approved group of people, like engineers and consultants. So if that is the case, we need to vote to approve a contract for Cliff Matthews, which is written very simply, just to say to support this project, $95 an hour for whatever time is needed and requested. Beg pardon? He's not doing this for money. He's doing it for other. So, did you start his question?
Cliff Matthews is town council or?
No,
is
sorry,
private?
Cliff Matthews is the former chair of the commission. He wrote the denial along with PSC. Okay, so I wanted to have the
His
expertise.
name didn't connect.
Because,
Sorry.
sorry about that. I just, everybody's saying, okay. So Cliff is willing to do this. He has spent a lot of time and effort, blood, sweat and tears on this project and writing the denial. So would like to make sure that it is clearly understood by the DEP if they ask questions. If they don't ask any questions, as I've reaffirmed to some members of the town administration who wonder what we're doing and why, that we're not going to talk more than we need to, but we want to be able to answer questions and make our case if that's what's being discussed. So Cliff and Matt would make a formidable team. I would not. I'll be there and I'll be able to speak as chair, but I would much rather have their expertise.
Wise.
Agreed.
Okay, so if we want to, according to what Tim in town, the building department, talked to me about this afternoon, we need to do two things. We need to approve a contract by voice vote, at least tonight, so we have a contract, even if it's not fully signed and so forth and executed, in place. And we need to sign, they've asked if we would, this, you can do what you want, but they would like to have us, the lawyer recommended potentially to cover ourselves, that we sign a disclosure agreement of conflict of interest with, it's a state form, which Hannah can send, I found it online, and Hannah can send it out to everybody to do it like a dot loop signing. But it would have to be done. But, pardon? No, I don't think so. This is, what it's saying is, according to the attorney, we, the commission members, active commission members, is the way he said it, he understands Cliff is not an active commission member, need to sign this to say we have no vested interest in Cliff doing this financially. And so whether we are lobbying or hiring him, we're not physically actually hiring it's complicated. The town selectmen have to approve the contract, which they've basically done if the lawyers are okay with it. And we have to actually pay them contract. So we, in a way, are working. But in any case, whether hiring or lobbying is the lawyer's words from this quote he was giving us, a legal quote. If we sign this, it covers us, even if there may not be any conflict of interest. And I think that's why.
We still have to act, in a way that we would be in public. We can't do anything that would be a conflict of interest. We're saying that there is no conflict of interest.
Right, at this time, there's no conflict of interest with.
We can't like sign it and do whatever we want,
It says appearance of favoritism or influence. That's the disclosure of appearance of conflict of interest as required by general law. So.
I also
For Cliff's presence?
think that Cliff might have to sign it.
I
want to forward it to him.
I don't think so, because this, the lawyer made it clear.
I
This is
think
for
so,
the,
because consultants are held to the same standard, so.
yeah, it may
he's
be.
Consulting for the town, and he worked for the town within the last year. Because he was paid a stipend.
Because he's no longer I'm just, all right, I'm just telling you what the lawyer said and doesn't give you. Yeah, all right, well. The lawyer doesn't think there's a problem. If Cliff was still an employee of the town, it would be a major problem. If he was still hired on by the town for some reason.
Consultant.
Not yet. Because he is not currently an employee of the town, the lawyer said we're fine. But we should sign this just to be on the safe side, is basically the way they phrased it. So I'm just letting you know what the lawyer said.
Maybe the lawyer will reach out to you about it.
Yeah, I mean, if we need to, we can always get something signed after the fact. The problem is, we need to have all this stuff done before tomorrow morning at 10:30, because I want to be able to tell, not that I'm showing them any papers. Anybody, property owners, not to be named, the DEP or anybody else, that yes, Cliff Matthews is entitled to be on site. He is a paid consultant of the town who we are using because of a very specific reason. He wrote the denial, which we are reviewing here on site. That's the reason he's here. Which I think the DEP would be fine with, and it would save us having, as Cliff put it, a big legal argument about things that we don't want to have a big legal argument, all right? So.
No, I have not seen it.
No, I just literally printed this out before I came to the meeting tonight. So I just was finding, and there was a reference, general.
I don't understand I understand the contract for Cliff. I just don't get the point of the conflict of interest thing. We don't have any conflict of interest with.
I don't, either the lawyers phrased it, I mean, the lawyer's being asked, what do we need to do to cover ourselves? And the lawyers.
The conflict
Look-
of interest law. Ask law.
I'm not gonna argue with the lawyer at this point in time. If this makes the town comfortable that we can go ahead and do this.
Supposed to do your training.
Anyway, let me finish this, please. So then I'm all for it, because it's a simple thing. We all sign conflict of interest. Don't we do this every 2 years for the town anyway, Neil?
Well, the training.
We do.
I haven't done it forever, for a long time.
Well, I think
You're pretty elected.
it may be open space training, the meeting training or something. I thought we signed off on something every year or two with the town. But anyway, bottom line is, if anybody has a real issue with that, let me know. But otherwise, I think saying that we don't have a conflict of interest, we're not trying to show favoritism or influence on this hiring. And it satisfies the town council, who is with the selectmen who gave us basically provisional approval to go ahead with the contract, which I understand from town.
Oh, it's because it's probably a no bid. That's probably why.
Could be, whatever the reason is. It isn't very focused. reason for having Cliff on board for this. I think it would be a big benefit. I think that signing this document and voting, if we want to have him hired as a pay consultant for this project at an hourly rate, satisfies everybody in town, and I think it gives us, or at least me, for showing up there tomorrow, an additional level of comfort. And I, by the way, didn't run it over Matt. I ran it by him, and he was definitely on board with the idea of having Cliff there as an added plus.
That's an excellent idea. I think we should do whatever we need to do to get Cliff on the ground there tomorrow.
All right,
Yeah, I
and,
think he's the best
Okay.
resource we have.
okay, so, I'll accept the motion to, sorry, you want?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you want to make a motion to, hire Cliff Matthews as a consultant for, work, review, denial review, project review of the Prospect Street Estates. I think that's general enough, is giving up, project, at an hourly rate of $95 an hour to commence immediately, and no, I don't, just $95 an hour is fine with sound, as long as we know an hourly rate and a start date, starting immediately. And I'll accept the motion. I think that's all we really need to have.
So moved.
Steve?
Second.
Thank you, Neil. All right, all in favor? Any other discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Hi,
Aye. Okay, unanimous, I think. Thank you. Neil too.
I wanted to add that if anyone needs to refresh their conflict of interest training, it's available online. It's very easy. You can find it on Mass.gov. It's like a fun quiz. Learn a lot about conflict of interest.
Okay, and then since everyone seems to be in agreement about the dot loop signing the disclosure document, please look for that tomorrow morning, and it's literally one click. So can everybody do that from their phone or someplace they'll be tomorrow morning before, let's say 9:30, 10 o'clock, whenever Anna thinks she'll be here? 10 o'clock.
I'm here between 8:30 and 9.
Okay, so by 9 o'clock or 9:30, look for something from Hannah. If you haven't gotten it, try giving her a call, please. Make sure you get it, because it was pretty important that we have that in place according to the lawyer. Before would be much better than after the fact, but that also makes me comfortable with saying straightforwardly, he's a consultant, he's on board, we checked this with town council, it's legal, and that should hopefully allow us to move right to the DEP stuff, and maybe it'll be a cakewalk, I don't know.
You can sign that with town and bring it with you. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, you can, if you want to, I guess.
I think we all have to have our individual.
Yeah. In one employee signature, it's one per person, so that, I don't know how you do it, that with multiple.
I mean, I just took the template. It's not that bad, but if people want to sign right now, that's fine too.
Well,
But you only have one.
I think it's made,
Since he's gonna be there tomorrow, I think he should just fill that out.
well, I don't think that this will be brought up. If I tell them we have this document, I'm fine, I think I'm fine with that. I don't plan on,
We can.
yeah, I could have it if I can, if I need to, but I plan on telling the people that if they ask, even, it may not even come up, but we want to be prepared, and as was mentioned, not sidetrack the, you know, who can come on site and who can't. The property owner has the right to refuse people. We've always honored that in the past, but it's abutters or other people, and I don't, that's become the sticking point with stopping the DEP from being able to hopefully sign off on this, if not there, then in the near future, and uphold our decision or our denial.
They probably won't make a decision in the field, Mike.
Oh, I doubt they would, but just want to make sure that they don't walk away with less than the full representation on our side of it. If it comes down to back and forth stuff, it may just be they walk around and observe stuff and they hold up their hand and say, we don't want to have any talk about it. We just want to see it. I don't know. It was very vague in the,
I'll look for that document in my inbox.
I'm actually surprised they're doing this before it's been adjudicated in Superior Court.
I think I mentioned this to Tim last night or this afternoon when he asked me about it. I said, I think that if I remember right, what Cliff said in the past, when they've had denials about projects, it's rare, they do it. They usually win. Yes, Bellingham Conservation Commission usually wins because it's well written, well thought. It's considered, it's not done arbitrarily, and that's recognized by whether it's DEP or the Superior Court. But if it comes down to a dual appeal, like is going on right now with that project, I think that state in the past has deferred to the DEP if it's an environmental ruling. In other words, when it's upheld or denied, I think the state Superior Court would go along with it. They would wait, and Superior, that's what they're doing, is waiting to see what the DEP will do. But I could be wrong on that. That's my recollection from previous conversations about this. All right, all in favor of moving, do we have any other business? You good?
I mean, there was one last thing. If you can look at it later, but I found an updated list of all of our properties. But it was updated in 2022, and at the very bottom it said conveyed in the future. If anyone can, like, say that did happen in the past year before I got here, or if there's anything obviously missing, it would be a great help for me, so I don't have to deep dive.
Is
Yeah.
that on the,
We have got one piece in the last year, Hannah.
Okay,
It's a stretch off Farm Street and it runs from Farm Street south along 495 down to the Walmart property.
okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I remember that.
That's the only one I recall that we've gotten in the last year or so is that parcel that's running along, like I said, from Farm Street along 495 down to Walmart.
Okay, and this would be a really big stretch, but do you know what that was called? That filing maybe? It wasn't under.
Oh, now now you're pushing it.
Okay, well, that's helpful.
Conservation land list?
Yes,
I feel like if I look at the names, and they might like bring back some memories.
Okay.
um,
Well, we have the list, it's in the attachment, take a look at it, see what you can forward along for any hints or help.
I think the address references Farm Street because I think
Yeah, I think it was
that
too.
whatever that little sort of spur off of Farm Street, like Old Farm Street or something.
okay, I got word back from Boy Scouts, they want to do stuff, so we're gonna be doing stuff.
That's good,
That's all I got.
that's great, we'll follow up on that, let them expand them. All right, no other business, accept the motion, right, choke out here, to
Help them.
close the meeting. And adjourn the meeting and go about our business elsewhere, so. anybody-
moved.
Steve, thank you, any second?
Would like to say.
Noel, thank you, I know you want to get into, any other discussion, all in favor? Aye, thank you, Neil, thank you, everybody.
I.
Thank you.
Three eyes for everybody.
Thank you.